represent all Americans now. Hell, half of them wouldn't even be here without the Avengers. The country needs this.
And when we disagree on how to manage a situation, what happens then?
People love B-roll.
I want to say that's what sold most DVDs, like hard copies of DVDs. Everyone's like, "Oh, I got to get the extras."
That is accurate.
You're not wrong. That's why I still enjoy physical media, because I like having the making ofs and all that stuff now. And like The Simpsons is better with commentaries. You get to have all that for like every episode for like 20 seasons. So good.
Pretty awesome.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't really care about the commentary past season like 13. It's like, yeah, guys.
That's because you stopped watching after
there's 20 seasons of Cash Grab. Get out of here.
Of Cash Cab? There's 20 seasons of Cash Cab?
Oh,
Cash
man,
Grab
that
never
show.
ended.
Different
Never
show.
ended.
Okay.
Still in your heart.
Not like a Lemonade.
Oh, I miss a Lemonade. I have to stretch now.
You don't have to.
I do. I'm old. Everything hurts.
Fair enough.
I've been drinking.
What you been drinking?
A beer. Just a beer. Nothing
Just
too
a
exciting.
beer?
No.
No,
I
is
did.
it the
All right.
Bonds beer that just
No,
says like beer?
Beer? No, okay, no, hold on. I should do the commercial. You know, when I'm on the road, sometimes I get a great notion to go to Great Notion. So I went to Great Notion last week, and let me tell you, it was a great notion to have.
Yeah, look at that. Just wait for those checks to come rolling in.
Yeah. Give us the money.
Please.
Everything was delicious there.
That's good.
It tasted really good.
It'd be a really bad ad if you're like, when I got there, it was all
It was
garbage.
trash, garbage. No, everything was great.
Okay.
I mean, whether it's the Stamp Out Stout, the Overripe Ale, or any of their fantastic brews, you know Great Notion's going to be a delicious drink. Even try out the Mr. French if you'd like.
This guy gets it.
This guy's good.
I can play the rock music somewhere.
Heavens no.
Heavens no.
Ken, why do you not like quality music? And I don't understand.
It's fair use, and I prefer to pay the artist money that I don't have. I don't know. I have nothing good there.
I liked it. It was great.
Yeah.
Ken's got a thing against generic rock and roll. What an a-hole.
I do.
Must not be American.
Ken hates every Underworld movie.
Yeah.
Kevin Grievous is good. It's good stuff.
Which
I've
one?
met him multiple times at cons. He's awesome.
Underworld?
Yeah. Underworld, Kevin Grievous. That's the writer.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So that's why I should punch in the face.
What?
Does he just write slow-mo throughout, or is that a director's choice?
Oh, that was Scott Speedman. Scott Speedman was.
Do you know how fast Lycan and vampires move, Pat? They have to be in slow-mo.
Oh, so we can see him. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then slow that down, too. So it's not normal speed.
Keep adding to slower and slower.
Yeah, the faster they are, the slower you have to go.
That makes sense.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, that was. I thought it was Scott Speedman. Scott Speedman is the actor. Len Wiseman is the director.
Well, Scott Speedman's that like hybrid, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but Len
them?
Wiseman also gave us, besides the Underworld trilogy, he also gave us the more recent Total Recall in 2012.
Oh, the Colin Farrell one?
Yep, and Swamp Thing and The Gifted and wow.
Oh, he's done a lot of work.
Once you're in, man.
I was gonna say definitely loves the sci-fi.
That Total Recall was not good.
It wasn't as bad as I think people made it out to be.
I mean, it was better than the RoboCop remake.
How dare you, sir? I like that RoboCop remake.
Well, you
You
know,
call yourself a RoboCop fan.
I like OG RoboCop, the good one.
You mean part 3 with the Japanese assassin
Yeah,
robot?
of course. That's exactly what I meant. Why would I?
Okay.
What other RoboCop would I be mentioning?
Just making sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah. No, part 3 with the the Japanese assassin robot.
That is the one where what's name dies, right? Though isn't that
Yes.
the one where you finally get justice?
Yeah,
Justice for RoboCop and Lewis.
That's you're like Lewis. Oh,
yeah. I mean, she got him killed.
She did.
Did he get killed though? Because he's still with us. So,
Well,
I mean, is it?
he's dead in the eyes of the law.
Yes.
He's a dead human, a live cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're on the side of the law. I thought we.
I'm just saying, like, his wife had to watch him die.
Yeah, you know where I fall on Paw Patrol.
Fair enough. I don't care for Chase.
Oh, that fascist. Using dog labor. I'm good.
There was a moment Michelle and I were getting wrapping paper for our nephew, and it was like the Paw Patrol one, and we really thought, can we just cross out all the problematic Paw Patrol characters? If you know what I mean.
I was gonna say, what does that leave?
There's a firefighter. No one.
Yeah, the fireman, yeah, all right.
Quote someone. No one's writing songs saying "fuck the fire department."
True.
Got a point.
I mean, at that point, there's really only just the one cop dog.
Well, I would never. I would never. What? No, that's not what I would do at all.
There's the construction one. There's the Air Force one. There's the fireman one. Fair enough. I think it's a female though. I think she has. Is it?
I don't.
Or does she just? There's one that rides a motorcycle. What's up?
I said you're the one here with the kids.
They moved on from Paw Patrol years ago, and so I did immediately as well, and I forgot everything I had seen.
So it's all about
we were
Miraculous and the Ladybug.
They moved on from that too. They're in they've just now
kids these days
discovered Full House and Fuller House, and watching the connections have been blowing their mind.
You that just the poison. Oh, there's so many other better shows. Like just the quality.
Are you
of
kidding?
Kid,
did you not grow up with Full House?
I did, and I'm the worst for it.
I don't know how you're the worst for it.
I was indoctrinated by the Candace Cameron Bure and her Make America Great Again Hallmark Channel.
That is post this show though.
That's fair. And I do enjoy did enjoy Bob Saget and
like I said, they started watching Fuller House because of their cousins. And then they realized that Fuller House was from Full House. So then they jumped over to Full House and was like, wait, these people are these people? I'm like, yeah. And they were like,
it's weird. Their
and
first
Uncle Joey was the voice of Peter Venkman after they got rid of the best voice actor ever, Lorenzo Music. How dare they?
Nobody knew that, Ken.
I knew that, and it's not. It's not
because you have a weird obsession with Ghostbusters, though. I'd expect
weird. You mean a fantastic obsession?
Oh yeah. Keep telling yourself that, and not your psychologist.
I do think Ken may be afraid of those ghosts.
Why would I be afraid of the ghost when I can have a nice, delicious bowl of Ghostbusters cereal?
Is there any?
Quite frankly, every morning I start my day off with Ghostbusters cereal. Yes, it's 80 years old, but still,
is there something
crunch?
In there?
Is it
no,
sealed?
not at all. It's in a bag just to keep it safe, but it's an empty box.
I was gonna rob you. I mean, come by and have some.
Yeah,
against your will. Cereal rate. Different meaning in this, but you get the drift.
I feel like it's the same meaning.
No, it's really not. It's really not the same meaning at all.
Fair enough.
I'm remotely close.
I don't think you understand English.
I don't. Because the movie is fresh in my brain. Kareem, you saw it yesterday, right?
Monday.
Okay. I saw it Sunday, so you have the freshest.
When did you see it? I'm guessing you saw it Thursday night, Ken? Friday?
I did.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we can work our way backwards as far as like perspective. Because again, I just saw it, so maybe we can't have seen it a few days. Can be like, all right, these are things I can answer for you guys, and these are things that start to make sense after you think about it. Well,
I think the problem is you thought about it.
I think you kind of have to.
No, you don't.
Okay.
You just turn that off.
Well, like I said, I can do it's okay to enjoy something, which I did. It's good to have a popcorn movie. And I think at some point now we just have to say, all right, this is the new MCU standard and enjoy that for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other thing of critiquing, saying, okay, well, this just flat out doesn't make sense, or this would have made more sense had anybody had time. I guess I would say time, but they took an extra 2 years. That's what I don't understand.
All right, so
Yeah,
let's.
Legend of Zelda music playing.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to be talking about Captain America: Brave New World, and let's introduce our guest, Mayday. Mayday, tell us about
Hey.
yourself.
Hey, I'm a non-binary comics creator with Parkinson's, and I've been friends with Ken for a really long time. I recently did a Flash Gordon cover and a G.I. Joe cover, and I've got a Speed Racer cover coming up that I'm really pumped about. And I'm working on a time travel story about trying to stop Elon Musk from taking over the world.
Ooh, timely. I like it.
And more
Yeah.
politically responsible and in tune with today than the movie that we watched.
How dare you, sir?
That's for sure.
It's only 2 years old. It still works. Put it in the microwave.
Just reheat. Just reheat.
Yeah, just read.
Well, then, I mean, so that we can definitely start there. I think we said it a little bit earlier. I will start the pod out with saying I enjoyed it. I had a positive experience overall, but there are caveats and addendums and notes that I think some of us may have. But like, yeah, there's definitely a lot of like there's good and potential here, but it's slightly underbaked. But maybe you like it al dente. Maybe that's your jam. But overall, enjoyed it. I think that we're going to dive into some of that right now too, though. So yeah,
Like,
that's
if you stuck the toothpick in, it's definitely coming out covered in dough.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. If you were going to take that metaphor further, it would almost to me be like if you had baked a cake and then took out parts of the cake and then tried to make more cake and rebake the parts that were already in there, and you end up with this Frankenstein cake.
So you mean how you're supposed to bake a cake?
Yeah.
Exactly 100% what you would do. Yeah. Okay.
The Disney method.
Yeah.
It does have that glued together from multiple sources and rewrites vibe to it, definitely. So-
Movie by
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah.
We do want to mention at the, I don't know, whatever mark we're at right now, this is going to be full of spoilers. So if you don't want any, we'll see you next week. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just making sure people don't get upset.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, you didn't tell me you're going to go through the movie. I'm like, yeah, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to
With that being
draw
said,
plot points.
Pat, can you give us a 2-minute run through of the movie? Point A to point to the end. It's quick. Just give me the highlights so that when we get into the story, we can, at least have
Okay.
a basis.
Thunderbolt Ross has been elected president of the United States, and Captain America has concerns. Captain America's not happy about it. Fast forward for a couple months, Captain America's on a mission trying to stop a terrorist action attack thing by Sidewinder. Turns out that this could be a conspiracy trap thing. Captain America does indeed stop it with his sidekick, the Falcon. Falcon and Captain America are invited to the White House along with Isaiah Bradley, because Captain America says you have to bring Isaiah Bradley because the U.S. government was very bad to him and he should be invited as well. Very nice. They go to the White House. At one point during Thunderbolt Ross's speech, Isaiah Bradley and a couple of the other Secret Service agents go nutso and start shooting at the President of the United States. That's a real problem. I should mention right before that happened, President Ross asked Captain America to reform the Avengers. I'm trying to go fast to keep this under 2 minutes, so I think we're
We're
going
not
over.
interrupting. You're doing good.
All right. Captain America then is brought to see the president and asked to look into what's actually going on, as that would not, Isaiah Bradley would not be the person to try to shoot at him. It doesn't make any sense. Ross says, "You had your chance," and gets all Harrison Ford angry about everything. Captain America opens his own investigation into what is happening. I have to look at my notes now just to make sure that I'm getting everything in there. Sam tries to free Isaiah, and then at that point, Sam opens his own investigation with the Falcon, and they go to find Sidewinder. Sidewinder, played by I never say his name.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah,
Giancarlo Esposito
Mhm.
captures Sidewinder. Sidewinder gives him a clue as to who the initial buyer was that did not show when they at the beginning of the movie when they stopped the terrorist sale of turns out to be adamantium. Adamantium is our big MacGuffin in that regard. President Ross's entire political career hinges on a treaty between India, France, and Japan regarding Celestial Island. So
the big alien in the planet.
yeah. So the background on this film is you need to have seen the two least popular Marvel films since the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
Very important that you saw the two that most people did not see.
Wait. Incredible
Correct.
Hulk and Thor: The Dark World?
How dare you, sir? Incredible Hulk was good.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Okay. First off, Incredible Hulk is one of the ones that we're talking about. So
Yes.
that's why I'm saying the least popular. I'm not saying it's the worst. I'm saying it's the least
Eternal.
popular.
I thought you were talking about Eternals and
Yes, I am.
the Captain America show.
Yeah, Eternals has to be the least popular now.
Yeah,
I liked
but
it.
I think.
you know.
Okay, wait. So now we're already breaking down points. Pat, you said the least two
Yes,
movies.
because you're being pedantic.
I'm not being pedantic.
You said
I'm being specific. I'm being correct. Okay.
You're being an
That's
a-hole.
not even correct. But no, Pat said the least
You
two
think
popular
that-
movies.
That Eternals is more popular than Thor: The Dark World.
No, I'm giving up on Thor: The Dark World. That's fine. But I was saying that he's referring to Incredible
Okay.
Hulk.
Yes.
That's where I'm standing. I'm not
I thought you said about Eternals and the Captain America show.
no, not that. And he didn't say show. He said movies. So
I said
get
movies.
that through your brain.
And
Sorry.
Incredible Hulk is the most forgotten of the Marvel movies. Not the worst, but the most forgotten. It's the one right after Iron Man that nobody
think
talks
so.
about. What's more forgotten than that one?
They don't rewatch it.
Who rewatches most of these things before the Age of Ultron?
I mean, there's a fair amount of people who do. They go through
Yeah.
full movie rewatches. I know someone at work who just started.
Yeah,
And they're going through it.
Okay.
I
So,
do that.
I
Well,
think-
and see, because I had kids, I would often, every few years, kids forget all their movies. So we would start over at the beginning. And sometimes we do like a different version of a rewatch, like just follow Steve Rogers.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. I just would say I don't know if it's forgotten as far as like the way that the MCU kind of shoehorns it into the universe itself. Like there's nothing aside from the cutscene at the very end that ties this movie back into the MCU very much at all. There's no references at all. Like, Banner never makes reference of Betty. Like there's no like, oh, you should have, this is also part of the universe. They just kind of
That's why we're saying it's
go past
forgotten.
it.
That's
I'm
his
saying
point.
it's not forgotten. I'm saying it's intentional. They start the
Okay.
universe with
I'm
Captain
not
America.
sure I'm following the difference. They definitely, it's still continuity. I just think from a fan point of view, once they replaced Banner, like
Okay,
Eric Norton, I mean,
I would
Edward
say that
Norton
more
with
people-
Mark Ruffalo, people don't go backwards.
Okay,
know?
I would say more people know the plot of the Incredible Hulk than they do Thor: The Dark World.
Well, that's fair because Thor: The Dark World didn't really have a plot.
It was just like the Loki backstory machine.
Okay,
Like let's give Loki some more screen time because people love Loki, which is fair. Like I think that we've seen now there are, and again, like we're not saying a mark of quality. We're just saying it's
no, I'm
forgettable.
saying
in
I'm
the
saying as
fact
far as
that-
forgotten. Like if you were to ask someone what was the plot of the Incredible Hulk and what was the plot of Thor: The Dark World, people would be like, oh, okay, he's fighting Abomination. I don't know what the hell happened in Thor: The Dark World.
I
The
think
only
Hulk
reason
Smash
they know-
is the plot
Yeah.
of Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, I don't even know if people really like. A lot of people today even saw that movie, because like I said,
Most
a lot of people came over with the Avengers and hadn't seen Cap. They'd seen the Iron Mans, they jumped in Avengers, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess I'll watch Thor." But
More
people,
RDJ, why not?
that's one of the real strengths of the MCU is pulling you into the world so that you go back and watch stuff. But of
Was
the
the
movies, Incredible Hulk is one of the ones you can skip easily.
Okay,
Look, and once again, no shade. I actually enjoyed that movie. Problem is,
Same.
it is one that they've done a lot to actively kind of like ignore in a lot of ways. So
I don't know if I agree
I've
with
always
that as
been-
much, just because I love that they've kept Thunderbolt Ross.
I just feel like they've removed Thunderbolt Ross from the Hulk until they. Like Hulk was still around. Thunderbolt Ross didn't go at. I just like, nah, he's there. Whatever.
Well, especially after he goes crazy and what you call it, Sokovia or whatever.
Age of Ultron.
Yeah. You think he'd be like right back on that? Like, I told you he was dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, especially if it cost him his daughter.
Well, I mean, after Age of Ultron comes up Civil War when they do the Sokovia Accords.
True.
Yeah.
I will always enjoy Incredible Hulk because it gives us like a Mike Deodato.
But I mean, there was a scene beyond that, like where they have a meeting after Age of Ultron, right? In the oh god,
Hulk's not there because he leaves after
in the bar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's going to get back to something else. But Pat, you finish up.
Okay. I'm going to slow it down a little bit because I think I'm jumping a little too fast. So
no, speed it up and only do the top parts. We're gonna go through the details when we start talking nitpicking stuff. We can go back and fill in stuff. So if you miss something, don't worry about it.
Sidewinder tries to kill Captain America, Captain America, at the behest of the big bad. Sam stops that and defeats Sidewinder. Sidewinder tells him that this is the buyer, and the buyer actually ends up calling Sam and says a lot of spooky stuff. Simultaneously, we're watching President Ross call a military base called Echo One, saying, "Is that son of a bitch still behind bars?" And he's taking pills. I think that covers that. At the same time, there is an attack at the prison where Isaiah Bradley's being held, and all of the other people that Isaiah Bradley had attacked the president with are shot and killed through what looks like mind control. Cap and Falcon visit Echo One base where the call came from, and it turns out that it is Sam Stearns, the leader, or as my wife called him, Mr. Snakestistic, because he looks like a snake and says a lot of statistics.
Gotcha.
I like it.
It's a good.
It's also, I mean, I think of him as Mr. Blue from the comics because of the storyline with the Hulk, and it's also a callback to that was their call signs in the Incredible Hulk. It's also the song that he uses to activate his Manchurian candidates, as it were.
Yes. Turns out,
well, and they never call him the leader in this movie.
No.
Yeah, they just call him Samuel Stearns.
Well, they call him the buyer.
Oh yeah, the buyer, Samuel Stearns, or. Do they even call him Mr. Blue, or is it just my own?
I feel like he's to earn the title leader, though. He hasn't done anything to earn it.
He's earned it, but he hasn't earned it. But he also no one. Well, that's the thing too. Is we call it Celestial Island. Like, who told them that was a celestial? Like, where? Like, none of the Eternals kind of.
No, the Eternals they left a note on it. Didn't you see the note?
They put a post-it note. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's good.
My bad. I'll be back to clean this up later. They put the post-it note. They flew off into.
I'm pretty sure somebody.
No, but just from a writing point of view, they definitely could have called him the leader by referring to him like, "We've got to catch the guy behind this. Who's the leader?" But instead, they just call him the buyer like 400 times.
Fair enough.
I'm pretty sure they called him Snake. They called him Snake-tistic at one point. Pretty sure.
I think
I didn't see that.
Let's put it this way, Pat. They called him that more times than they called him the leader.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That was in the Brave New World cut, or the New World Order cut.
The New World Order cut?
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan just in the background with a fake beard. Was going to get that joke in there at some point.
There you go.
Turns out...
you did it.
Yeah! Turns out Sammy Stearns, as I call him, has snuck mind control triggers into... I guess everybody, the world. And if he plays the song Mr. Blue, he can take people over and make them do his bidding, which is normally to shoot at somebody. While they are at Echo Base 1, Sam discovers files on Ross. Surprising. Something's going on there. That's going to be tough. Ross has actually kept Stearns locked up for ever and had promised him that he would let him go free after he won election, and then shockingly didn't do that because kind of keeps the plot moving. So he did not do that. In the meantime, while that is going on, Ross has gone to Japan to help renegotiate the peace treaty. And turns out Japan has evidence that the U.S. actually is the one that stole their adamantium and was the one setting everything up behind the scenes and then stole it back so that they could look like heroes. And it's all a big old kerfuffle of conspiracy. So from there, that leads to relations between Japan and the U.S. breaking down. Sam and the Falcon and the new person from the Widow program, Ruth.
The Red Room?
Yes, the Red Room program.
Not Sabra or Sabra, but Ruth, which that's a
Ruth.
Discussion for a later point. Let's keep
Yeah,
going.
we're going to get into that too.
The 4'11" murderous assassin who I could not believe could actually physically punch a person. I'm sorry. She just there is a limit. 4'11", too short. Can't.
She's actually, is she 4'11"? I thought she was.
Yes.
She was
No, I looked this up.
She's tiny. She's super tiny.
Yeah. Oh no, she's tiny. I know, but I was just like, yeah.
So,
Carry on.
All right. From there, Japan decides they're going to go to Celestial Island to make their claim. So Ross, who was a wartime general, sends a U.S. carrier to also make his claim for the U.S. of Celestial Island. Falcon uploads a program to stop the mind control from working.
Falcon's a genius.
They just kind of wave like, oh, no, I can fix it with science and computers and MIT or something. Fixes that problem, except he didn't do it fast enough. Sam and Falcon go out to the aircraft carrier to let Ross know what's going on, but two of the pilots, along with Ruth, along with Ruth, they all go out to the aircraft carrier to let Ross know what's going on. Ross is not happy and angry in general, and two of the pilots go AWOL and take their fighter jets off and U.S. pilots and shoot at the Japanese fleet because they are still under mind control. Because he just missed it. He had counteracted the programming, but just missed it a little bit. So there's a pretty fun and exciting little action scene where Sam and Falcon have to stop the pilots and get them to eject and stop them from attacking Japan. They do so, though Falcon is badly injured in the process. From there, yes, Falcon's badly injured in the process. They're able to stop it. At the same time, Ross receives a phone call from Sammy Stearns, who's trying to talk him into getting angry, real, some might say, heated, because Red Hulk gets hot. See what? If that were a reason. You got the drift.
Yes.
So Cap does end up confronting Ross about everything. Ross admits that he had kept Stearns captive because he was dying due to a heart condition and had Stearns cure him. He had promised Stearns that that Ross would release him once he won the presidency. Ross obviously did not do that because he's not a good person and Stearns is very dangerous. So Stearns has made it his mission to ruin Ross's life and reveal what he truly is to people. Turns out Stearns had been giving Ross basically massive gamma pills filled with gamma to fix his heart condition and also turn him into a crazy gamma monster. So that's fun for everybody. We cut to Falcon is having surgery. Sam feels bad about it, and we get a Bucky appearance at that point, who comes in, gives him a pet talk. Evidently, Bucky's running for Congress. Sure, why not? Doesn't really work. Doesn't really work with Thunderbolts. Feel like no one set of writers didn't talk to the other set of writers.
No, that's exactly. It's setting up for that. He's a congressman in. I mean, this is spoilers for a trailer. Yeah, he's. Oh, I didn't realize. They vote him in. Yeah. So
all right,
we're going to talk about how that even works and how Wakanda is feeling about that.
They're feeling great. They got an insider now. Yeah, insider. Got somebody they can call. Trust me, I know how the people are running against him. At this point, God, this is longer than 2 minutes. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying.
Yeah, you're almost there. You're almost there.
Bucky gives Sam a pep talk. Ruth comes in and kind of eye fucks Bucky. Then we get to the kind of big ending of the movie. Ross has been able to kind of talk everybody down with Japan and India and France, and they're resetting the peace treaty. At that point, as Sam is walking out of the hospital, Sam Stearns
play Batman 2 on this one.
Yeah. Sam Stearns turned himself in. Says, "Hey, good, I'm out. You got me. You caught me." Yeah, and then Sam is able to take over the PA system at the White House, which is notoriously easy to break into, and play the call where Ross is admitting that he has kept Stearns hostage. Ross flips out, wants to explain to the press what's going on as he was in the middle of press briefing, and gets so angry and so enraged he turns into the Red Hulk. We're finally here. So now the Red Hulk destroys half the White House, has a big old fight with Captain America, and basically is only able to be defeated by Sam talking him down and reminding him that go ahead.
And cherry blossoms.
And reminding him.
We'll talk about why that's important.
Yeah, reminding him that all he wanted through all of this was to prove to his daughter that he was a good person and to walk under the cherry blossoms with her. And wouldn't that be nice? And maybe you shouldn't murder Captain America, who's just a normal man, unless he doesn't need to be a normal man for the plot, but then is a normal man. And
no,
so
he didn't
Ross.
take serum. We know that.
No, he did take serum. They say it a lot. Didn't take serum. Didn't take serum. Like, gets blown up 7 times. Didn't take serum. It's fine.
Nope. Stabbed
Ross
twice.
Calms down. You get hot, shirtless Harrison Ford with cuts all up on him.
He belongs in him.
Well, he ends up there. Movie flash forwards to kind of just a news program saying, well, U.S. is getting back to normal. Ross admits everything he did and is a prisoner in the raft, which, for those that remember from Captain America Civil War, was the thing he imprisoned. Bucky imprisoned all of Cap's team, including, at that point, Sam Falcon. Falcon goes to visit, says, hey, it's okay. I still believe in you. Liv Tyler shows up to reprise a role as Betty Ross. We get a happy ending. Hey, hooray, yay, we did it. Then we get one of the worst post-credit scenes I can imagine in a Marvel movie. That's it. That's what I got. Cut a bunch of stuff out, missed some stuff, but you get the drift.
Yes.
It's worth noting for the pedants at home that Shira Haas's height is actually 5'2". But that's just
I have it at 4'11" here.
I have from Wikipedia that she is 5'2". She's not.
I'll fix that right now.
When was the last entry? Who was it by? Was it by her? Because I don't trust it.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
she looks shorter than Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson's what, like 5'3"?
I don't know what to tell you, bro. I internet there.
Nevertheless, okay. Oh, do we want to start with her? Since you brought her up, do we want to start with her? Before
we can start with her. I mean, we should start
Mayday,
with.
Do you have anything you would like to add first? Anything that you want to jump into? I will follow your lead.
Mayday, do we still have you?
Yeah, I didn't hear that last part though.
Oh, is there anywhere you want to start off before we start jumping into random things here and there? Any place you've got a discussion point? You're like, this is what grinds my gears.
Well, I mean, the thing that was super noticeable to me in the movie was just the added scenes. Like every time a shot didn't make sense with the visual language of the previs setup action sequence. Like, for example, like the scene where Leader confronts Sam outside of the hospital where Falcon is. Like that whole sequence obviously reshoots. The one shot of Falcon in the water looked like a reshoot. Just stuff like that where it would just really pull me out of it. I felt the same way about Liv Tyler's appearance. Liv being mentioned constantly, like the amount of Betty references to set up her showing up at some point was so telegraphed. Just my feeling watching it, because there are a lot of things that I thought were really cool. I love Sam Wilson. I love his redesigned cap suit that he gets halfway through this. I love Giancarlo Esposito, so like I was pretty hyped for this movie, and there were a lot of things that I think that turned out okay. But it's killing me not to know what the original version of this was gonna be, and if it had a point,
It does feel like there are pieces.
Also, I took off my Captain America sweater, but I do have my Captain America figure here. Yeah.
Very nice.
It does feel like there are pieces of a more poignant movie that got cut around so that to appease a quote unquote wider audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be where a lot of us, because most of us here and maybe some of the listeners have seen different reports. I mean, just going from the fact that we do know that it was initially called New World Order and now it's called Brave New World. There's been a lot of changes. I mean, I feel like it's a fever dream that I had that Giancarlo Esposito was initially given the title of GW Bridge, which is a character in the comics, but him being Sidewinder was like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing. They're doing Serpent Society. But because I do know there's supposed to be another iteration where they had a wrestler as another member of the Serpent Society, yes. Which I think, Pat, you've got some wrestling bona fides there to throw in the ring.
I believe it was Seth Rollins was the wrestler that was going to be in the film.
Yeah, and so and also, like, if you look at the McDonald's toys, we had Diamondback that was potentially going to be in the movie before they got cut, and it's like there's lots of different pieces, kind of like, I don't know if who's going to, yeah, okay. Like there's lots of different pieces that they kind of fell off of the movie or whatnot. It feels, and there's definitely points where they're like, well, we've got to have this point in here because what if they didn't watch Falcon and Winter Soldier? To which I say, well, forget them. They should have just watched it. It was free on Disney Plus. You should have already been watching it because we're all nerds here and we should just watch these shows anyways. And I think that Falcon and Winter Soldier was better than this. I think that Malcolm Spellman was able to say more and have more of a story he was trying to tell come across in that TV show, which, given he had a lot more time in the TV show to do that. But that also got cut to pieces due to like the pandemic, and we had different things that changed there. So even that wasn't like a complete, like, his story that he wanted to tell. Whereas this feels even more so where it's like, it feels kind of toothless. Like this is an opportunity where you can kind of say something about the people in power and whether we trust them or not. And in the end, we get the fictional idea of a president accepting responsibility for something. And this is all make believe now. I was on board at that point. So I don't know. I preface everything with, I enjoyed it overall, but there's definitely, like, you can see the seams a bit and you're like, oh, what was over there? What was that missing piece that's been cut and re-sewn together? And yeah, and there's lots of little bit. By the way, I didn't know if everyone knew that we got D-Man in this movie and he got killed and we didn't get him. Oh, another thing too. Remember, because we were talking about this in a group chat, that we almost got Amadeus Cho played by Logan Kim from the Ghostbusters films. And I'm like, I love podcasts. He was awesome. And Amadeus Cho can be fun. So, right? I'm like, oh, that's such a cool, because he was supposed to be who D-Man calls and says, oh, I've got to tell you something about these pills. And then Samuel Stern's like, I'm going to kill you with the brain thing, make your heart explode. And like, okay, like, I didn't feel, I don't know, I never felt really threatened by Samuel Stearns. Like, he didn't feel like a good bad guy, because he was just kind of like, and if the idea is like, oh no, I want the president to acknowledge his heirs and publicly face retribution for this. Okay, but then you also have all these other pieces of collateral that you're fine with letting people die, and quite frankly, you put Isaiah Bradley in a bad position, and I hate you forever, no matter what. So I can never be on your side because you hurt Isaiah Bradley, and he is one of the best parts of this movie. Like, I love Isaiah Bradley as a character, period. Like, when Red, White, and Black came out, that was a great series. And then, like, we got that in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I feel like we got more of that in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we got some here too. But like, I got so much more emotion in that show for him than I did here. So I don't know, I'm all across the board here, folks. Please feel free to jump in now. I ran out of steam.
Yeah, I'll jump in. There were, I think I put in my notes, there were about 3 different movies here, and I think the writers needed to pick one and expanded on that. Or if you're going to do the 3 movies, do a better seaming of the whole 3. The stories that I was seeing that I noticed that could have made for really good ones, obviously the Cap situation, but I was thinking if you were to introduce a lot of versions of the normal hero, and then play on the idea that they kept saying like, hey, without doing the serum, like, you know, so I was saying, because you have Isaiah Bradley already there, why not bring in Patriot as a storyline? Why not have, you know, Cap basically auditioning Falcon and Patriot for the new Avengers? Like, you have that level of like, hey, these are guys that don't have powers that will need to work together to accomplish something. The second story I saw was this need to be a Hulk story. Like you shoehorn Cap in here and he's an afterthought. We get more motivation of why Ross is doing things than we do Cap being a leader or earning the title of Captain America. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's one thing too. Like at the very beginning, his slogan is "Together," and like there's questions with me being like, what are we trying to pull unity here now all of a sudden? But also instead of together, it's to get her. His entire point is to get Betty, to get her, and that's I'm like, was that intentional or just
they 100%
me overthinking it too much?
No,
okay.
I think you're right, but again, this is where. Again, part of the second story thing, if this were a Hulk movie, this would have made more sense. We had the pieces for, and I think this is where we start to see the fact that they don't have the foresight that they had for the first 10 years of Marvel stuff, where they were like, hey, even as they were making stuff up, it was easy to pull things in and say, okay, this will work here, this will work here. Because we had MODOK, and we have the leader. We could have the potential loss of Betty, which would explain why we have a Red Hulk. The one thing I was very upset with in this movie, because I'm a Hulk fan, is they never explained Red Hulk. They made him seem like he was just a red version of Green Hulk. That Cap had to talk him down. I'm like, he speaks English, like he's got cognition, like he can talk to.
Not this version. He's just
exactly.
He's just a red smashy Hulk man.
He burned through his clothes.
That's the only thing. But again, that's the only difference that they didn't explain on why he did that. And I'm going to get into details that could make more sense on why he was Red Hulk and how that works, and they can briefly explain why he's different than the green one. Other than that, one reporter's like, "Oh, they come in red now." That was funny, but I'm like, there's still like you still need to explain like he's not just a red version of him. He has benefits and deficiencies that the other Hulk doesn't have. They need to be explained. It would have made for a great movie anyway. Third story was we have adamantium and mutants. The mutant story got dropped because they didn't want to deal with the Mossad aspect of what's her name, but
Abra.
I think right. But they mentioned adamantium quite a bit, and I was like, you have that storyline of like, let's get to the Celestial and the reason why we need to get this stuff. And I think you could have used her as a bad version. Like my idea of the storyline would have been an escalating series of difficulties that pushes Sam to be like, have that question that he has with Bucky, like, should I take the serum? And she would have been the first one or one of the first ones to be like, hey, he's going up against things that. She's supposed to have, super strength and agility and stuff like that. So when he fights against her, it's like, okay, I, almost died fighting her. Should I have taken it? And then he gets to the Hulk and it's like, all right, well, I need everyone's help. I need Patriot's help. I need Isaiah's help. I need Falcon's help. We all, I don't need to take the serum. I just need people around me to help supplement this. We're a team. We're going to take this together. That's why we'll never need to take the serum to be a one-man show. I think that's the story I was going with.
Then leads to
that's such a good point.
Go ahead.
So the serum is the friends we made along the way.
Essentially, yes,
it's fine. I'm okay with that. It just I will. It should be noted too that at one point that Malcolm Spellman did speak to Patriot was, or at least the character was in one early iteration of the script, but ended up being cut for pacing, and which it's understandable. There's a lot going on in this film, and like you to the point, it's three different character stories all at once. So yeah, you kind of have to figure out what comes in where. So
that's what I'm saying. To this point, like I think if you were to take the knobs, if there were actual movie knobs, and you were to tone down Hulk, because you really only show him for 5 minutes at the very end. You don't need to necessarily have a whole storyline with him and turn up the Captain America / restarting the Avengers / like you can still play on the, hey, do you work for the government or are you like the everyday man? And you could have Isaiah Bradley training Patriot to be like, hey, never be part of the government, no matter what they ask you to do, because this is how they'll treat you. I'll treat you to be a vigilante on the side or whatever. And then, Cap coming and saying, hey, we need everybody's help. I'm going to bring everyone into the fold. We're going to do things differently under my leadership. Like at the end of the day, I wanted him to be Cap the leader, and he just still seems like he's Batman with a sidekick versus.
I mean, after
you're so right about that being such a better approach to the theme, and it would have made the contrast with Ross's campaign slogan make more sense, because he at the end would be trying to do things as a one-man wrecking ball, and Cap having to have a team. There was apparently concept art showing Isaiah Bradley in some sort of costume, and cool. Sabra was obviously supposed to be in her outfit. I don't know.
I mean, well,
that would have been awesome.
It's worth noting. I think on the deck of the aircraft carrier, you can see under Ruth's jacket, she has her suit on still. Oh God, I had a thread and I lost it. So I'm sorry. Carry on.
Well, I'll keep talking or let Pat go. Just
yeah, thoughts about it. I was just gonna say, if you want to make a Hulk movie, make a Hulk movie. Like this was a Hulk movie that you threw Captain America, and I wholeheartedly agree. I do wonder what happens in a little morbid if William Hurt doesn't pass away. What does this movie look like? Because I feel like I don't know, because I feel like the moment they got Harrison Ford, it becomes we have Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
we have to up his screen time.
Well, I see we know from leaked stuff that Hulk was supposed to die in that fight with Cap at the end, just because there were leaks of a funeral scene with Betty. And while I don't know if that would have been better or what, but I do think that thematically having the new Captain America kill the president of the United States would be so massively controversial and interesting as a thing to happen,
And given the current climate, they probably, we can't have the Black Captain America kill the angry president.
The red president. I remembered what I was going to say too, was that after, because to the point that Isaiah does say, like, you shouldn't work with the government XYZ, after President Ross calls Sam's son with a hard R, I think that's where it kind of sealed the deal. That he's like, son. you know Steve Rogers. He's like, time for you to go, son. I'm like,
Well, see, this is the other thing. Like, I had issue with, again, enjoyed the movie, but I had issue with the way that they kind of retcon the love of Cap that apparently
intense moment.
Hello.
The love that what's his name has for him, because I'm like, Cap and Sam and Cap were on the same team of defying what's his name. So I'm like, he shouldn't there's no like you're not Cap. I'm like, he should hate them both equally.
Yeah.
There's nothing that he likes about him. There should be no love lost between the two of them. Like, he's like, I don't like either one of you because you guys don't listen. And they should both be suspicious of each other. Like, hey, I gave you orders and you disobeyed me. Your orders are wrong and I don't trust you. And they should still have that. But it seems like he somehow forgave Cap and doesn't like him because racism or something.
Well,
right.
I will also, I'll say to that, yeah, I mean, they kind of make sure, yeah. But also, if you're trying to show Ross as actively trying to return over a new leaf, you good, Kareem? You got your?
I think so. I think I've said
if you're actively trying to show him turn over a new leaf, the easiest way to do that is to have him build a relationship with Captain America in that regard. Like, hey,
yeah, and I do think that the justification. I do think that the justification that they included that everybody was snapped, and the Avengers brought half the population back. All of that led to Ross becoming president, even if he doesn't have any love lost for the Avengers in general. The idea that he's seen that his own political aspirations benefit from their wins, might have led to him thinking the Avengers need to reform.
It seemed really random to have selective homage towards Cap, though, because there's nothing. Because if it wasn't for Falcon showing up, Cap would have died in that battle against Thanos. It wasn't like, Cap was the only person to survive it, and that's the reason why. I'm like, no, Falcon shows up to and everybody else to basically, if there were cameras on the field, he can be like, Cap was the reason why. Damn it, Cap was the reason why everyone's alive. It's like, no, I showed up with everyone else to help this guy out. We're all on the same page. You should either like both of us the same or distrust both of us evenly.
Well, he also is liking the concept of Captain America now, who is not there. He likes the old Captain America because the older one's not there to tell him no.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that
this
makes
is
sense.
also,
Well, and I also think like saying you're not Steve Rogers anymore. You could take that, or you're not Steve Rogers, not as you're not my friend Steve Rogers, but you won't have like the public support that
Okay.
Steve Rogers had. You know,
You're right.
yeah, and it's also worth noting that he's at some point it does. I saw on the screen it's PO instead of being POTUS, it was President-elect of the United States of America, because it was still like in an interim phase. I was kind of unclear because he had won the election, but at one point in the war room, instead of just saying POTUS, it said it was PEO TUS. So I'm like, wait, is this still like an interim phase in which he still hasn't been sworn in yet? It's kind of unclear because this is also after the fallout from Secret Invasion, where Dylan Dermot Mulroney, president, decided to take off. He's like, no, I hate all these Skrulls, and he's now gone. So like and of course they didn't speak to what party any of the president was on. They didn't speak to running mates, so we don't know who the VP was for this. So VP Samuel Stearns we don't know any of like that. It's very kind of toothless in that way to be like, oh hey, just gonna bring in the next president. Like, who's doing what? How do we have any?
Well,
Who's in control of this? Is it Doge? We don't know.
Part of yeah, probably. And you want to get into it. I was saying, like, as part of again the story that I would have liked to have focused on was again you have the leader puppeting, a lot of the obviously political aspects. But I think what you do is you have him hire the Mossad agent to go around grabbing the adamantium and killing international entities, and having the leader then offer, and I think you still keep Thaddeus as like your Secretary of Defense, basically. Instead of giving him the presidency, you give him the Secretary of Defense, and you have him basically trying to initiate wars, talking to the president, like, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. We really need to go to war for this. And again, this is all being manufactured by the leader. He's putting things in place because he wants to basically, based on the cutscene that Pat was talking about, he's seeing this as the greater good. Like, I need to get all that adamantium to prepare for what we're about to get into. And we can't having rogue nations have it. I'll kill for whatever I need to get all of it, and we can claim it. The U.S. has the biggest military to claim it. I need to put into motion that, because again, for whatever reason, he's getting all the adamantium to prepare for secret wars or whatever. That's his plan, misguided as it may be. I thought that would have been a better story. And again, that's how you get Sam chasing down the Mossad agent, because she's going around killing everybody. So it's him versus her. He gets beat up by her, and he's like, hey, you know what? I almost died because she's a mutant and has special abilities. Should I take the serum? And Bucky's like, no, just keep going at it. And then you get your next escalation, which is the Hulk. And he's like, all right, Bucky, you were fucking wrong. Like, I need some help here. And it's like, well, you don't need the serum. You just need more people around you. And that's where you get him kind of saying like, all right, now I need to form the Avengers because of stuff like this.
It's also weird to me that he's like, oh, should I have taken the serum? It's like, there was no point in Falcon and Winter Soldier where that someone said, hey, here's the serum, you should take it. And like they weren't able, like the Flag Smashers had some extra vials. Those ended up getting smashed. So there's only just like one left. And that's what John Walker takes. So it's like, they weren't handing that out to you either. So it's not like you had the option to be like, oh, I turned it down. Like, no, you didn't. They didn't hand you at any time a vial saying, hey, you should shoot up and become the next Captain America. So
I think it's implied that they can make more of it somehow.
But yes
I'm
and no.
really on board with this Kareem idea, though. Like, I know I already basically agreed with this, but the idea that Sam could have brought the team together could have shown exactly why Steve chose Sam to be the new Cap.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys watch Batman Brave and the Bold, the kids cartoon?
I didn't get a chance
Some
to
of
see
it.
that. That's it.
So that show was
the finale.
Well, no, the show was run by James Tucker, who, had worked with Bruce Timm on a bunch of other stuff, and is, I think, just a really good guy who understands superheroes, okay? So at one point, Batman fights Darkseid, who's come to Earth, and the scene is eerily similar to the Endgame scene, where it ends up being Cap versus Thanos and his entire armies, and he's just a guy, So Batman, no powers, and then Darkseid and all of his forces. And I watched this with my son Emmett when he was like 4 or 5, and was learning about superheroes. And I said, I paused it because I'd already watched the episode when I was showing it to him. I said, a lot of people think Batman doesn't have any superpowers, but he has one. And he says, what? And I said, he's got friends. And then I pressed play, and then the members of Batman's extended friendships show up to help him fight Darkseid, which is very similar to what happens in Endgame, right? So you totally could have had Sam pulling together so many of these people that he has relationships, including, by the way, Ant-Man, who should have been in this movie and gotten called Tic Tac,
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
I don't know. Yeah, but that would have totally sealed the deal with that kind of Portals moment of like, that's why it's this guy.
But I would hazard a guess they don't want to do that for this movie. I think that is a really good way in the way they should have gone. But I can already hear the discussions in the Disney Tower of movies. Like, no, we have to save that for the next Avengers. We can't use that here. We got to wait, and we need that to belong to Doctor Strange or Spider-Man, because there are our faces. So,
well, there were some other things. I want to also make note that we have gamma pills now. Those are a thing.
Yes,
and they weren't explained like how this works exactly. So it seems like anybody can just take them over a long period of time and become a Hulk.
Fun
with varying degrees of Hulkness, I guess, which is weird. I'm like, were you guys going to explain any of that? This is the other reason, part of the other story that I had in my head about how we explain the Red Hulk, which is you give Ross cancer and you let him get chemo with gamma so that he's absorbing radiation, which makes sense for Red Hulk and why he's different and how his Hulk works versus like we're giving pills and he just happens to turn red versus green. And I say, if you give him cancer,
do you think it's funny that it's yet another? Sorry, man. It's another villain story that wouldn't exist if not for the constant failure of the American medical system.
You're absolutely Seems like that is the greatest of all evils.
Yeah, a 5-star general can't even get the proper treatment through the VA, so he has to turn to Samuel Stearns.
Right.
He has to turn to a private probably a concierge medicine doctor. And
that he has
to go
basically enslave.
Gotta go out of network for that stuff to save my life.
Yeah, which again, I was hoping as I was rewriting the stuff in my head is again, you have the leader give him that special chemotherapy, which again explains why he's Red Hulk and can absorb versus that, and it maintains his intelligence as well.
But then
we give him pills.
You don't get the cool scene of him having to eat the pill because he's getting angry. He's like, I better take my anger pill. Oh, damn, Chewbacca.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's just again. I think you've also introduced, if who knows, they may never even acknowledge this again, that those pills again are something that could just basically be given to people to be like, all right, you're going to turn into a Hulk now. You're going to turn into a Hulk. Versus the chemo being specialized, like this is the only machine that was used on Ross in order to do this thing.
I mean, that's also where we have the fact that we were supposed to potentially have Amadeus Cho in here. Is that's who D-Man sent off the pills to, and so now Amadeus could be totally awesome Hulk / Brawn, who we could get, but again, that's just tying in more comic book knowledge.
I mean,
and to
he or anybody else who finds the pills.
And that's also clicking other things in my head too. Didn't make sense to me as a watcher of some media with presidents, of the idea that Ross can just take pills quietly and no one's noticing that. Or he's on an aircraft carrier and he can just quietly step aside and crush a thing, and there's every bit of media I've seen is that no, there's basically someone with the president at any given moment. Maybe when he's in the residency, he has time to himself, but otherwise there's always an agent with him keeping him safe.
Well, that
and
too,
including agents that at the end when he's like, no, let me go, I want to talk about this. He starts to Hulk out and they're just like, well, let's just shoot the president. That's the thing to do. They go from no, Mr. Okay, we're going to shoot the president. This is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do as a Secret Service agent. What are we doing here?
Well, this is also telling as well, because again, two things. Thaddeus doesn't go for rage necessarily. He's not a rage person to begin with. So the idea that like, I'm going to push him until he becomes a rage monster, I'm like, that isn't his thing, though. He's a calculated strategist.
No, but we saw his rage in The Incredible Hulk, the most forgotten Marvel movie. And so
when does he rage in that movie?
They're like open fires, like no, Betty's out there. He gets angry there, and like
no, he's not angry. That's not rage. That's him telling this guy not being able to express too loudly enough for his guys to stop something. That isn't like him. It wasn't like he threw guys out of the way to do it.
He loses his cool. Does that help?
No, he's
translate.
No,
he's not even keeled then. And
he's
then
trying to express an order that no one's listening to. I don't think that's rage, though. That's like
I think you're splitting a hair.
Kareem, I think what you're saying is that the character isn't usually defined by his rage, which is what differentiates Red Hulk from Green Hulk. I don't know if I agree because I do think he's got a temper, but I do think they did they just made Hulk red. And a little warmer.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because the leader kept trying to push him to be angry, and I'm like, again, that's not outside of anything that has to do with Betty.
Ross for a reason, because he's
not because he's angry.
Cannon.
He's effective.
That's okay. I think
it just depends on the version of the story. Writers have taken it in different directions. I will say that the thing that bothers me more than that is this redemptive arc for him and passing the buck of his complicity or agency in choosing to become a big monster, which I feel like the storyline of, him having Stearns try to fix his medical condition, which I agree cancer would have been a better story with the chemo as the thing. And he could have been getting treatment at that facility, so it was super off the books. And maybe he knowingly was pushing Sam Stearns to make it so that it was giving him more power, so that the hypocrisy level is more evident, which as a thematic point, contrasting him wanting more and more power versus Sam choosing not to take the serum and relying on friends. There's so much that could have been done here. And again, I'm dying to see the original script before all these reshoots to appeal to Disney gets this idea in their head just because, a third of the country picked a bad president, that they need to change their entire business strategy to appeal to that same third that's always there, that always complains about all their projects, So I don't understand that logic, but that's why we have this patched together Frankenstein cake movie.
But what if the president tweets something mean about the movie? Did you ever think of that? Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Imagine if people actually bought tickets to it.
What? No. Impossible.
Controversy. It sells. But to your point, Mayday, I think this is why we got Red Green Hulk. Because any other version of him, this fight doesn't happen.
Right.
It makes no sense.
Of course.
Because as soon as he turns red, he's going to be like, okay, this is fucking weird, but we don't need to fight because I understand who you are. I know who you are. And I know what you're trying to do.
Well, and, we talked about like the different things they could have done to set up things. One of the things that really bothers me is, first of all, the appearance of the leader is stupid. He looked dumb.
They didn't go far enough. They tamed it down.
Right. And there's concept art that showed him having like a goatee and a larger head, like more like he's supposed to look. And I really don't like it when Marvel occasionally runs away from the weirdness of the books. And if you look at the history of the MCU, when they embrace the weirdness, it's a huge success. When they run away from the weirdness, what were you going to say?
Maybe they got bad feedback from MODOK.
Well, yeah. And
I mean, there's a lot in that's which is now, I think when we were speaking the most forgettable or worst movies, I think Quantum Mania is definitely kind of like, hold my beer with the Eternals kind of thing.
Yeah, you're right.
I like a lot of Quantumania, but I definitely think the MODOK misstep is so overwhelming because they keep going back to that bad joke and bad effects, which again, that whole sequence felt like added in after the fact, dumb idea. as a gag that somebody got too tickled by and couldn't let it go, and maybe nobody said, well, it's not that good, you know.
Well, this kind of, to me, sums up the entire problem they've had since Endgame, in that it always feels like they are chasing the last mistake.
I could see that.
Oh, the CGI didn't work there, then we'll tone it down over here. Well, no, it didn't work there because you didn't invest the right money and you got half too cute with it. You could still do it well. No, we got to tone it down here. Oh, people say the movies are too political here. Well, then the one that should be political, we'll make sure that it is as generic and down the middle as possible. Like, they were a moment away from saying, oh, those multiculturalists are the problem, man. Like, they were that close to just like the most.
Well, and it's so crazy because like, you look at like how effectively they used Robert Redford in Winter Soldier, or even William Hurt throughout this whole thing as Thunderbolt Ross, bringing that gravitas every time he showed up. To me, it was pretty underwhelming. As I think Harrison didn't phone this in. I think he really gave it his all. I just think they gave him so many scenes that didn't involve anything that mattered. Like, from an action movie political thriller point of view, right? Which is what the trailer made it feel like, right? It felt like we were going to get Winter Soldier kind of vibes, right? Mm-hmm. There are so many scenes in this movie of someone talking on a cell phone to someone else that's not on screen.
Yes.
Like, I know that they shot some of this during the pandemic, but you've reshot most of it after. So why is it just nonstop phone call scenes?
I totally agree.
Those tested real well with the kids.
Well, okay.
There's low cell phones.
Did they talk to AT&T? Was that their target audience?
That's right. Well, they definitely wanted to promote the iPhone that the president just answers himself all the time, apparently. I don't think that's how phones work when you're the president. I know Obama had to get like special security on his phone and stuff so that he could have a smartphone. And before that, presidents only had BlackBerries when smartphones started to exist in the first place. But okay, so we've got this idea that the leader has unlocked some sort of brain control ability, but it means he has to have the medical files of the people he's going to mind control. Okay, but then the mind control is activated by this, song that's a inside joke for people that know he's Mr. Blue. Yeah,
it's technically activated by a series of lights that is then
that's
triggered
right.
by the phone.
Yeah, it's implanted by the lights, but then activated by the song. This, by the way, ties me back to one other thing that I really was bothered by crap. When they're in the cell after Samuel Stern's like, oh, I'm gonna lock you in here. He walks out. They get out by Falcon, Joaquin Torres just reaching out and hitting the button to open the gates. I'm like, what's keeping him here? Like, everyone's like, later on I saw other things saying like, oh, by Falcon and Cap showing up, they opened the doors so that Samuel Stearns could get out. I'm like,
no, he was already out.
If he could get access to the warden into the, couldn't he just, everyone stand down, we're just gonna let him out? Like, there's nothing keeping him there. So like, it just doesn't make any sense. But the fact that he could reach the access from the door of his cell through the bars and Joaquin hit the button and it opened up, I'm like, this is dumb. This is
why my rewrite made more sense, where he's an active participant with the Hulk in this idea. Like, him and Thaddeus are together saying like, hey, I agree with, I don't know what it is you saw in the future or whatever, but I am for war because that's what I do. I'm for you help save me from cancer, whatever you need, I'm your guy, but you don't reveal that until the end. And then he can be out and about.
And even if he's playing him, having that connection between the two of them could have given Stearns access to restricted SHIELD files and stuff.
Bingo.
By having him have this relationship with the president. Like, I'll cure your cancer, but I want to know about the Mind Stone. And then that's what leads to him having this ability to mind control all these other people. But instead, it's just he can just do it. And there's no visual language to represent to the audience how he's perceiving all these possibilities, which I think there are a number of ways they could have shown him imagining outcomes, and different things. Whereas him just saying, I've seen all the probabilities a bunch of times is so boring,
Throw a hangover scene with numbers in front, just literally anything.
Especially when halfway through the movie, Cap throws it all out the window. You surprise him like, well, you didn't. Okay, now your powers suck.
Right. It's like I thought. I said to my son, we saw the movie Thursday night. There's like a real small theater here that does laser projections. So, it was just a handful of us on Thursday nights because most people in my rural area tend to go on Fridays, But so we're watching the Thursday night showing, and when they broke into the place, the pacing of the movie is really slow. So I'm like, this is kind of boring, and the stakes keep getting reset by all the jokes. Anytime there's anything that makes you start to maybe feel something, then they're like undercut it with a joke. But I definitely thought and told my son at the time, Samuel Stern, like the leader, planned for them to break him out. And that turned out to not be the case at all.
Right.
And he says so. And it's just like, well, what are we doing?
Your description of it reminds me of comic book movies pre-Iron Man. Like, we're not willing to go all in on the emotional stakes. We have to kind of poke fun at it and make a stupid joke anytime anyone feels like they might feel a feeling. It just and the kind of half-baked villain, it reminds me like we're talking about one of the old Fantastic Four movies where it's like, Doom's just pissed because Doom, like, he's angry. Cool.
I had a couple questions, and maybe Ken, you go first.
I was gonna say, like, I was when you said, I thought you were gonna go with like Nick Fury, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from Fox, but you went. So are you tagging the Fantastic Four with Chris Evans and Jessica Alba? Is that the one you're kind of like snubbing?
Yeah.
I didn't know if you're talking about the Roger Corman one. So there's
I am tagging specifically the and I enjoyed those films at the time, but like, it very much like, well, we got to cram a joke in here now, jam it on in there. All right.
Yeah.
Keep that plot.
And that's a weakness of a lot of the weaker MCU films in general.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Thor: Love and Thunder, one of the biggest falls from grace from Ragnarok being so excellent. Love and Thunder's like joke quality and frequency amid the stakes of everyone who's a survivor of the genocide of your planet. Their kids all got stolen by a guy who kills gods. And they're like, oh, Thor, you go deal with it. And all the other parents stay home. Like, I don't care what the Thor's doing. I'm going, But they're always doing that, is undercutting the stakes at least when they do that, the movie tends to fail, which I think is what happened with Quantumania as well.
I mean, Asgardians are known as terrible parents. Well known.
That is true.
So it makes,
Well, I think they were going for a similar joke style that they went with for the Cap show, where the pacing between him and Bucky worked. And again, to the story that we seem to all agree on, it would have been great to have that juxtaposition between Cap and Falcon, his sidekick, Isaiah and Patriot, as a group working together, having them go back and forth during this type of high stakes situations. But what ends up happening is we have the gravitas of what's happening to Isaiah Bradley. So there's jokes that happen before he gets imprisoned. And then you have this long 2/3 of the movie where he's in prison and it's very somber. And then you try and joke right after that again. And it's like, all right, well, you threw the pacing off on that. You have some jokes in between him and Falcon, which, happens in a lot of the interludes. Like, oh, we're going to gear up to go to do something. But then during their actual encounters, there's a lot of action pace and not a lot of talking. So when they get back to joking, you're like, all right, well, we got to catch back up on that as well. So I think they should have just kept it going, even as they're in the action between him and Falcon. So it seems earned. And then you introduce other people to kind of change that pace around.
I think they should have just had the second lead of this movie be Bucky. Like, I like Joaquin as the new Falcon, and I like the guy they cast. I thought he was charming. I thought they had a little too much bantery, tough stuff, but he was good, right? But when your fan base, right, especially like women who are fans of the MCU, all crushing on Bucky, and you got them to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. A lot of people wanted Bucky to take over for Cap, and then we sidestepped that story because the version of the Winter Soldier that we've done in the MCU is too dark, really. Like having him literally murder Tony's parents, you're not going to give him the shield after that, even if it wasn't his fault, They still could have brought people through. I still think it was fine to go to Sam, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show was so good, but you should have brought Bucky as a main character in this, so it's Cap and Bucky again, even if Cap has changed.
But it's the other thing with that is there's a real chemistry between those two characters that really came through on the show. It was a buddy cop show, and you could have done that again in this movie. Now, I can see the argument that, okay, we don't want to undercut Cap, the new Captain America, and we might be doing that by basically making him a co-star in his own film, but you kind of did that anyway with Harrison Ford. So
definitely.
You just did it without him even getting the proper screen time to play off of it and show natural charisma. I will say Anthony Mackie, I thought, did a really good job in this film. I thought he was extremely likable. He was serious when he needed to be serious and when he was allowed to be serious, but he was still charming. But I agree that having Bucky there to bounce off at you, because just that little scene where they're together, it's like, oh yeah, that's the relationship I want to see. That's the fun.
Well, I think the problem with having Bucky in there is that you'd have to figure out what his role is in this, and to have two straightforward superheroes wasn't going to work. The reason why Bucky works with Cap now is that he's kind of a rogue element, and Cap has to play it. I'm the hero, I'm the leader. If you bring him into this, he's slowly evolving into just another hero. Now you have two of the heroes, and at some point you're going to be like, well, this is the guy with the super serum and the strong arm. Why isn't he the leader? Yeah, the other guy has a shield, but and this is where they are failing with Cap in both the TV show and his current role. And it isn't necessarily like his political stance or the fact that he's a black superhero. Like they keep trying to shoehorn that in. The fact is he's not shown to be a leader yet. They've had an entire show and now a movie, and he's still not a leader. He's barely able to keep Falcon alive and try to tutor him. And they hinted at
and I think
the Avengers together. Go ahead.
I think you're so right, and I think but I do think that having Bucky, right, with all his darkness and the stuff, the fear of his own power, having a friend who you've been through shit with that you can say, I'm not the one to make this call, Sam. Steve chose you because you still have good in you. I don't know that I do. And then Sam being there to show Bucky that, I can help make this call, but you've still got good in you. You know what I mean? You could totally have that totally work.
I think in this movie, you're going to have him do some things, though, that are still a little dark to keep his edge.
Yeah.
Make that differentiation between, he's the leader, he's the straightforward guy, and this guy's still a little bit rogue still, but they made him a congressman, so now that's out the window.
That's so weird.
I mean, that's also another thing in the mix for the movie is that it is it's a setup movie. It doesn't get to just be the Captain America movie. It's also the Captain America setup movie for other stuff. I did want to touch on
paying things off.
In that conversation, in that scene with Sam and Bucky, there's two different things that
Which should have been a phone call.
And I'm happy to have we don't need any more phone calls. We've already decided that.
I'm just saying, of all the things that could have been a phone call.
Yeah, there's the moment where he's like, "Oh, he shouldn't have given me the shield." I'm like, I thought we did already confirmed this in the previous TV series, but it's imposter syndrome doesn't go away in a heartbeat, so that's fine too. But there's also a distinction that they made. He's like, "Oh, you've got the serum, or you took the serum," is what I believe Sam says to Bucky. It's like Bucky could kind of point back, I didn't take the serum. It was forced on me. They experimented on me. Zola experimented on me. This wasn't something I chose either. It was forced on me, and I'm doing what I can with it now to be better, but that wasn't a choice by Bucky. And that's
that could have been a parallel with Isaiah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like that's another missed beat we didn't quite get. And then the discussion too of like with Falcon and Cap, they're joking around when they're back at base after the mission. But I'm also in my head, I'm like, a good portion of the TV show was like, hey, Falcon's not funded by anything. He has no money. He's a man of the people. But now he's got a Captain America room with like stuff on the wall, and it's cool.
Well,
and
that was unclear of who he worked for before.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm kind of like. Well, he's like, I want you to restart the Avengers. Like, well, I don't work for you, do I? I don't know. It's unclear who I work for, where my funding comes from. I work with the government and the military, but am I a military agent? It's unclear. Oh, and this is completely. It's on the tangent of the decor. I loved the decor in Isaiah Bradley's gym space. Like he has the back room. It was very much pulling back from the original Truth, Red, White, and Black. There's some good photos in the background. I love that. But that's just me like following the train of thought. I forget where we started.
I agree. Using the Kyle Baker references from the original Red, White, and Black was totally slick. That's another comic that like, because I was in college when that came out and I was working at a comic shop, and it was just one of those things where it's like so clever and powerful and meaningful and covering stuff that doesn't get covered in your high school like social studies class. It was so awesome, and to have Cap learn about it, the way that was handled was so rad. It had a huge impact on me. And then obviously I was a huge fan of Young Avengers, so I love Patriot and his temptation to using mutant growth hormone, and all that stuff is so interesting. And I feel like just like you guys are all saying, not having the comic book knowledge to know where the clever twists on the tropes the audience is already familiar with, not having this Hulk be different. There's so many things that just having a deeper understanding of the coolness of a lot of this lore could have improved. There's one other thing I want to talk about, if you don't mind me going on another tangent.
Please.
What podcast do you think you're on? How dare you?
Right. So
this isn't the last cast.
That's funny. I've had a theory about popular storytelling and how often being on the pulse of the zeitgeist is so hard to artificially create, right? But one of the reasons why I think the MCU has become like a $1 billion movie franchise is they've had this fortunate thing where the events of the year that the movies that are coming out tend to be reflected somehow, in their movies, which they shot 2 years before the events happened. You could look at America's soul searching following the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, leading to Tony Stark in 2008 and the election of Obama, who at the time had said he was going to get us out of all these dumb wars, right? And then by the time you've got Captain America, you've set up kind of like a return to patriotism under the first Obama administration, and some dealing with some, what do we stand for, fighting against Nazis. Having the Avengers come together had like, I don't know, to me, like a feeling of a lot of the political movements of the time, like people finding common ground. And then, if you follow these things through, like things like the Winter Soldier and people losing faith in institutions that have historically committed tons of secret crimes, and us finding out more and more about that. Even by the time you get to Thanos winning is like the time when the entire political apparatus of America knew he would lose, like Trump would lose. And then Thanos wins in a movie in the same year or near the same year that we're derailing even like people who don't like the Clintons assumed they would win, you know, even if they thought they would cheat to do it. They didn't think they would win. Trump didn't think he would win. And that's the one where you go to the movie and you see Spider-Man die and Black Panther die. And we're in this moment of how do we recover from that? And then we get Endgame and we get Old Man Cap, and then we're, you know, given Joe Biden. And it's just like this weird zeitgeist parallel that's silly. I know it's totally silly, right? But it's weird, right?
Fuck everything up.
Right, because COVID fucking happened, right? And then, all right, so now, even though we all have like a lot of issues with this movie, on the positive side, we have a president who turns into a lunatic monster and is not fully in charge of what's even happening, you know, and a supposed genius whose smarts really come from a fluke. Which, by the way, Elon Musk is not a genius. He just bought a fake biography. But anyway, him pulling all the actual strings. I mean, that's what's really going on right now. And that's so weird. You know?
It is.
Could someone tell Elon that gamma pills would like make him more powerful and intelligent?
His gamma pills are ketamine right now. So he's already taking
that's right.
You should double the amount.
Fair enough.
Double.
We got to up that dosage.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, I like
those
that.
are rookie numbers. You got to get those numbers up.
I like that parallel, Mayday. That's awesome.
And I think that's. I would say I think that's what kind of when I walked away from the film was the bigger downside is like it did feel like Winter Soldier was trying to say something. It had even if it was, you know, it was a little more like let's turn the lens inward. Let's think about this a little bit more. This just feels like a little more just like this popcorn Hulk and smashing things. I can't wait for more smashy. And
it's because they clearly had things they wanted to say and then took them out.
Right, exactly. And that's where it's like when I speak to it being toothless, like I feel like the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show had more to say about the people who are falling by the wayside, the people that we let fall under heel. And that's both with the Flag Smashers, but also with Falcon and his family. And like, so they had a more clear message they wanted to allude to in the TV show, and they got most of it across. There's stuff that happened there too, but this lost so much else in all the other story. Like, oh, well, we've got to re-edit the Sabra story because we really can't speak too much to Israel right now because we don't want to speak to anything problematic. And it's a whole other thing. And which to me just says lean further into the Serpent Society as use them as find a way to use them as your implements of danger that the leader and potentially Red Ross are trying to use to manipulate things. But like you can make a comment on like the private security industry and like so BlackRock just does this. Musk was just talking about how they're. Oh no, wait, that was a different thing. But like, oh, well, I'll use my private security to do this. I'm like, excuse me, like we don't.
I just want to know what exactly was going to be her storyline because there's still ways to do the Mossad aspect. Because I mean, it's it's like when we make commentary about our own CIA being corrupt or doing. I mean, there are bad agencies and actors within any foreign government. If you had her as that, and like
any government doesn't have to be foreign,
right? Any government, yeah, definitely any government. But you had her, being led by the leader. You can still make her. I'm saying in the idea that I'm making up of like her being the assassin he's hired to basically get back all of the adamantium for his plan. She can still be from the Mossad. She can still be a mutant. She can still have super strength. She can still be a bad person who needs to be defeated. And then you get your patriotism right there by having Cap be the one who tries to defeat her. What I was trying to figure out, though, is because he almost got killed by Sidewinder, right?
Yeah.
Who was just a normal guy. I'm like, if I were Bucky, there had to be a joke there. Like, maybe you should hang up the shield because if you're getting beat by this guy, there's no way you could really fight anybody else beyond him. You almost got killed by this guy. Maybe you should take the serum because either your skills are lacking or you're just not cut out for this. But if it had been her with the super strength, that would have made more sense. It's like, all right, well, I can beat up normal guys.
I think you're leaning a little bit more into the comic book knowledge of that she's a mutant, and
Well,
none
she's
of
not in
that
this
was
movie.
here.
That's what I'm saying.
Right,
But if she had been, it would
that's
have made more sense.
right. But I'm saying that's
right-
why you're leaning more into the comic book of it all. She's just a ex Black Widow.
Right. They never
of it
fought.
all.
My point was is that in this movie, though, he gets almost taken out by just a normal guy, a guy who does no special weapons.
But
like
he
beyond-
has,
Carlo
he
Esposito
ha-
is more than the average man. He is,
and
pretty
he has information. Like the whole point is, he's like, well, the leader told me exactly what you're going to do and where you're going to be, so I could show up and set a trap. There was 77% chance you were going to like try and do this. Like,
but that doesn't change the fact that he's just a normal. Like he doesn't have enhanced strength, enhanced stamina, none of that. He's not even. I mean, my point is that Cap is supposed to be better than the average person already, and that he's enhanced with these, wings and all this extra stuff to make him a superhero.
sounds like someone's a fan of supremacy here.
I'm just saying he was about to
Little
be
bit.
killed by just a normal dude. Maybe he shouldn't be Cap. Maybe he shouldn't be the leader of the Avengers.
Oh,
Sounds
so
like
now you don't want
someone's
the Black Man as
sounds like Ken's spouting some Baron Zemo propaganda.
Sounds like it.
I'll
they
say
made Zemo too
I
good
forgot
in that
to-
show. He
yeah, that was fun.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I forgot to mention another parallel for the loss of Infinity War and the success of Trump, which was that the massive 60-something% of the country that hated Trump before he even ran were divided against each other by the like Clinton, Bernie bro kind of thing. And it doesn't matter what side you're on in that. I know where I stood. My point is 60% of the country didn't want Trump, and we got stuck with him. And the fact that the Avengers were divided during that time is the reason why Thanos won. And again, I know this is a silly thing to find parallels in, but I've been thinking about it since 2008. So I'm glad to have the chance to talk about it here. Also, I love the Flag Smashers, and the toothless thing in the show to me was the very Marvel movie move of just having them suddenly be killers when they were obviously right the whole time. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, and we'll murder these guys. And you're like, wait a minute. Now we're bad guys.
People are agreeing a little too much. I thought you were going to go with the fact that Ebony Ma and Mitch McConnell both look like testicles. I assumed that was the other parallel.
Oh, see, there's levels upon levels.
We had to write one of those like philosophy books of things that they make of certain pop culture things. I had a question again, and maybe this was answered, but why does Japan have adamantium?
Don't worry about it.
The research, so multiple countries colonized Celestial Island. Let's say these are just words I'm going to throw out there, and in their sector of the Celestial Island, they are the ones that pulled out the adamantium.
So here's my question: and shouldn't there have been a treaty before that?
No, because everyone just swarmed the island, and then they're like, this is mine. Everyone stay back. How does that not initiate a war to begin with, right then and there? Because
I think people are probably treating it like the space race,
Is it?
Except it's a ship. It wasn't like they needed technology. It's like as soon as you get there, wouldn't you be the first person to be like, "This is mine. Get the hell away from it."
No. But I have the index finger, and you have the thumb.
That's what I'm saying. But if I'm the first person to get there, you don't get the rest of it. I get it.
Well, but I think the fact that we're America means that people don't get to tell us that.
Well, so I'm saying that, but isn't that how the war? Like, I think when the idea of like, hey, I'm gonna send a ship out to find out what the hell this thing is, and I'm gonna put a flag there. Yes, you are the U.S., but we're going to need to negotiate because I'm here. Unless you're just going to murder me, which you're probably going to try to. I'm going to make a big stink about it. That's what I'm saying. Like the negotiations for a treaty or would have happened long before Ross got in office.
Well, I think it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say.
It goes. I mean, there's you could make the argument that they have the head, we have the hand, we have the other hand.
You keep saying you keep making this segmented argument.
Let me finish my statement. if they all kind of show up at the same time and they're like, well, this is my little place of land, it also shows that that the fear of the UN kind of keeping like controlling things means nothing. Like it's just a pissing contest, and they're just going to be like, I planted my flag here, you planted your flag there. I'm not giving up mine, but you got to come over here to try and take it. So if you come over here and try and take it, I'm going to take your like. It's the same. It's why would they? You think that that there's like, no, you get off this land. No, I'm Japan. I'm powerful too. Why would I get off this land? This is my land.
But no,
Well,
you're going to
I don't think
though. Okay. Mayday.
I was just going to say, like, if this was a real situation, right? There might be reasons why you would not want to initiate a conflict with the United States, even if you were the first ones there and you were just treating it. I guess the better analogy than space race is Antarctica, right? We don't treat it as, a thing that we're going to fight over. And the fact that some Japanese folks had the Japanese government had a lab there that found adamantium, set up really, really fast. It could have led to this thing we saw. What didn't make sense to me was the idea that America is in any way concerned about a Japanese naval fleet. Like, we have so much more naval forces than the next 10 countries put together. I don't understand. The only reason that Ross would have been concerned about this treaty was for the public perception of it and the soft power it would have as he dealt with other countries on other issues around the world, I think.
But not even that. It's because he wanted to show his daughter he could negotiate a peace treaty and not take it by force. Also,
that's right.
How did France get there? I get the others there. Where did France we got here? We got here.
They got done busy fucking with the Wakandans in number 2 in Black Panther 2, and now they're like, okay, you know what? Let's go over here now. Let's.
Or you wouldn't give us vibranium, but we got something that's better down the street.
Basically, the Atlanteans took everything underneath the water. You just find out nope, we got everything under here.
That's
all
like
ours.
If it just started to sink suddenly into the ocean because they're just mining it, they're strip mining the hand as it goes.
Well, see, my point in bringing this all up was that, again, if you had my story, you have the treaty, and you have that treaty being broken as what's her name is going around stealing everybody's adamantium and making it look like the U.S. is the one taking everybody's.
Can she steal it because she's 2 feet tall and can sneak into places easily and not?
Yes.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying,
and they definitely could have had her have mutant powers. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, exactly.
See, now I just want her to fight Ant-Man, just so that he can be like, fight someone your own size.
Or to Kim's point, you give her the mutant growth hormone that was mined from this thing. If it's been there for years, this is part of the stuff that they're like, hey, we're getting all kinds of great technology from this. We've given her this. She's going around taking it now, making it look like the U.S., basically putting everybody in the brink of war, breaking this treaty. And if this meant something to the president at the time, he can be like, no, we need to salvage this. I can't make it look like the U.S. is going to war with Japan. We can still have that scene. We can still have the standoff. So it's triggered for a different reason versus like, oh, the treaty fell apart because you got attempted assassinated. It's like, no, that's not why the treaty falls apart.
I feel like this is a state. One of the worst things to happen to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is them getting the X-Men back. Because everything,
they've done nothing with it.
Here's the reason, but here is my rationale. And it's not like getting it back when they did, I should say. Because everything now goes back to, well, you could have just used mutants for it. You could have just used mutants for it. And it feels like between fans wanting mutants to be there and them trying to stab them into a story, because they clearly had an outline of where they at least thought they were going to go. And then they got Fantastic Four and X-Men back. And then all the stuff with Kang happened, and it's thrown everything for a loop.
Yeah.
I disagree. I feel like they had no plan for the mutants just yet, and they keep trying to figure out ways to get them in here.
But I think that's part of the problem, is they keep trying to jam them in.
Yeah,
not really, though, because they're not... Go ahead, kid.
I would say, I think the fact that we've mentioned mutants in some of the TV shows, we've had these nods in
other than
Multiverse
the Marvel
of Madness
show, where have they been mentioned?
The Professor X was in Multiverse of Madness. He was in one
Yeah.
of the 2 multiverses.
Beast was in Marvels.
Beast was at the end of Marvels. Like I think it's that they don't know where and when to bring them in, and so that's causing this. And because
I have a theory about what they're gonna do. If you're interested, it is just me thinking, right? But the thought that occurred to me in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie and the appearance of Beast at the end of the Marvels is that we're going to get kind of a hybrid Fox movie universe with the X-Men 97 universe. Like those, because that's what the Beast appearance at the end of Marvels, it looks like the Xavier Mansion from the movies, but Beast looks like he's dressed like Beast from the animated series, right? And then the same thing with Wolverine's appearance in the new Deadpool movie, where you finally get him in a yellow and blue costume. And a lot of designs in that movie have like little homages to the 97 universe. So I suspect that the plan is to have things head to Secret Wars and Doomsday, where the FF universe, the X-Men universe, and the MCU we know are all on different sides of a thing, unless the X-Men universe and the FF universe is the same one. And then coming out of Secret Wars, we may have the hybridized universe that has everything put together.
You're having in the Secret Wars terms, you're having the MCU being the main Marvel universe and the Fox X-Men being the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
And then just kind of
and different faction of Battleworld. Yeah. Like after the battle with Galactus and Fantastic Four, that fragment gets pulled out of the into the multiverse onto Battleworld. So you still have a sliver of New York, or at least the Fantastic Car and the Fantastic Four in part of Battleworld, and that's how they survive. And that's how once Secret Wars happens, you'll have this kind of like, oh, we've got a Doom, we've got Reed Richards, and we've got these things that build out the latter Secret Wars storyline. And then eventually they just get it all funneled together into one prime universe.
Have you heard the theory that the FF movie universe is the universe where Steve stayed with Peggy?
I haven't heard that.
I heard this like 3 or 4 weeks ago, just someone talking online on Reddit or something. And I don't even like Reddit, but I like to see costume leaks because you guys can for sure. I'm obsessed with superhero costume redesigns as its own skill and art form. I used to run a whole website about it. So I love the MCU costumes a lot. So a lot of times I'll be like looking for leaks of costume designs. But I love that idea as just a way to tie this clearly an alternate universe 1960s for the FF into the events we've been following since the beginning of the MCU, by having where Cap chooses to go at the end of Endgame set up this different timeline.
Yeah.
This could definitely easily become an Endgame podcast at this point, but I was under the impression that the world that Cap lives on with Peggy is the main shouldn't say 616 but it's the Marvel, the MCU, because like the husband that we don't see in Winter Soldier is like back of the head is him, and all the little seeds, like he's still there, which also begs the question, like Cap just sat behind while Hydra
that'd be the worst storyline, because then he just sat behind.
According to the writers, that is what they intended, right? They intended that, the writers did, who wrote Winter Soldier, but the Russo brothers have come out and said that doesn't make sense, because we established that anytime you go into the past, you create this alternate timeline. So where Steve was another one, and he got back somehow. The reason why I always preferred the writer's version until what'd you say?
He'd be like, what's this Jim Crow stuff, guys? I was, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, that's why it's interesting, because if I always liked the idea that Steve maybe was doing things behind the scenes, but not disrupting the timeline, which was what the writers intended. But it's not what the directors intended. And now we're going to get this alternate universe where the 60s looks all futuristic and cool. And maybe that's because of Steve getting involved in a few things here and there, even if it's undercover, even if it's not a big deal. And that leading to, the Fantastic Four existing and having all this super advanced Reed Richards technology everywhere. I'm kind of into it,
Steve comes back in time and then becomes Captain America in the 60s as he did in the comic books.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing,
my
right?
head hurt in a
So,
good way.
one thing that's bothered me since Endgame is that no one has ever addressed the fact that Sam's shield that he got from Cap is not Steve's shield, which was broken in the fight with Thanos. And this shield has a different star pattern, and it has the extra ring running through the silver line. So it's clearly its own shield. No one's ever talked about it in any scene of the MCU in the TV shows or this movie. And I'd love to know if in the past Steve got Howard to build him another shield and then had adventures with this shield that he then passes on to Sam,
Well, because, he hands him the shield at the end of Endgame, right?
Yeah, but it's not the one that he fought Thanos with that got cracked and broken up. It's the one that Sam has now. So it's old man Steve who could have already had these adventures in the Fantastic Four universe,
right? And
then come to our universe with his shield that he used. Maybe he got extra vibranium from T'Challa's dad. Reed could have helped him. Yeah.
How big is that check? They're going to have to cut Chris Evans if that's the plan.
Yeah.
It's a big check. They're going to, hey,
they got the money, so.
Money.
But they got him back to play Johnny Storm, It's so cool.
That's because he got to swear. He was very excited.
Yeah.
It's also unfortunately for him, it's not like his career's taken off since Cap, though. He's been in stuff.
Okay, but on the other side of it too, does he need to be greedy and be like, no, I need more little roles? Like, no, hey, I'm kicking back. I'm enjoying life.
I think
I'm Chris Tucker here. Like,
I think as an actor, I think he would like to be just same as Robert Downey Jr. Like you question what your abilities are beyond, your biggest role, I suppose. If you're going to keep acting, which again, he was he did what was
well, he was just in that Red One movie that I didn't watch because the trailer was so bad, but a lot of people liked it. Yeah, he was in the movie with The Rock. So and Lucy Liu in that, I'm sure he's getting paid. And he's been in other movies. He was on an Apple TV movie called Ghosted and stuff.
I'm not
but in terms of elevating your game, like RDJ did in Oppenheimer, I hope he's got something coming down the pike for that. But I'm thinking of a lot of these as more like RDJ appearing in the Dr. Dolittle movie right after Endgame,
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. I think as an actor, you want to be like, hey, I nailed it as Captain America. I also nailed it as this person and this person versus saying hey, I was funny in, Not Another Teen Movie. I nailed it as Captain America, and that's been the end of that's my career. That's my career in a nutshell.
No, I think he got some credit for Knives Out. He did he had a good performance.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
That was good.
You're right.
He did Lightyear, which is it's voice acting. He also
he was awesome.
Oh yeah.
As Lucas,
I don't think he one Lightyear was panned. Like that was one of the
I liked it.
More,
it's still better than Tim Allen.
You're right. You're right. It's one of what now?
He reprised his roles, Lucas Lee and Scott Pilgrim for the animated series.
Yeah,
and he did the movie Ghosted, which is always
you're
fun.
just listing stuff he's been in. I didn't say he wasn't in stuff.
Yeah.
I'm saying being known for it. Again, to Mayday's point, you have Robert Downey Jr. in a bunch of movies after Iron Man, and then Oppenheimer shows up, and it's like, all right, well, he's still got it. Like he's able to go on to something else other than Iron Man.
I'm sure Chris will do something like that, though.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying as far as him getting paid to come back to the MCU, it wasn't like right now if you get Robert Downey Jr. to come back, it's like, well, I'm getting notoriety from Oppenheimer. You need to up that check because I can go out and just do something else and make just as much money or get just as much notoriety from that. Chris Evans is like, well, I haven't done very much. Sure, bring me that check and I'll come back as well. Or the check doesn't have to be
I think the negotiations will be pretty serious though to get him back. But
I think there'll be more.
I do think he is coming back though. I think he'll be back for Secret Wars for sure.
I think everybody.
I don't think Widow
they're
will be,
all.
though.
Oh, sad.
I
I'm just saying,
I just don't
the
ever say
negotiations
never.
over
You know.
COVID. Fair enough.
I
think that she
assume
was burned.
everyone will be back.
I think she was
They-
burned from the way that the streaming deal went for her movie.
I mean,
Well, she definitely was, but then that was when Feige wasn't in control with everything at the time. And then he's the one who reached out and kind of smoothed things over a little bit. And then I can't remember what it was. She did something that was related to Disney, if not Marvel. I don't know.
Hmm.
But
yeah, I think getting people that were, apologetic to her about how that was handled probably helped. I love that movie, by the way, the Black Widow movie.
Oh yeah, I thought it was good.
The ending of it with the falling down from the sky has that whole previs CGI too much thing, but the story was great. I love Yelena. I love Guardian. I'm so
yeah, she
hyped
was
for
awesome.
Thunderbolts.
Yeah, me too. All right,
Yeah.
another question. The Betty Ross of it all. We're really skipping over Red Hulk's motivation here. Agreed that she was misused?
I mean,
I
yeah,
think
but
so.
also like I also don't like we do. I think there's too much of like outside knowledge. Like we know that there was another scene shot with her at a funeral, which we don't see. So I mean, was she misused? That's if you think that there should have been more Red Hulk in this movie, and I think there should have been less. So I think that
I just don't think the wider audience even remembers her, from these movies. And if they do, it's just like you said in the intro, Pat, is it requires so much knowledge and memory. Even if you remember it now, it's like you haven't cared about that character forever. There's like a deleted scene from Age of Ultron where Bruce mentions her, I think, to Tony, and Tony has a line about what Pepper's up to, and
I have they mentioned her since the Hulk movie?
well, I
That's
know
the
in that
deleted
scene, but I don't know if officially anywhere.
I don't think she's been mentioned since the first Hulk movie. It's just kind of they put Hulk in Avengers, and he went they do an entirely different way with him.
Also, can we talk about the? What'd you say?
I feel like they may have mentioned her in She-Hulk and just like a passing comment.
Mm-hmm.
They might have. I think you're right.
I recently rewatched it, and it's also interesting to rewatch it. And like the talk in the movie of we essentially needed a scapegoat, so we blamed Stearns for this. I'm like, you also blamed the Abomination, and we've had story for him since then. So it's like we're just not going to acknowledge any of that. No, okay, cool. If there was a passing comment where Samuel Stearns has actually founded the intelligentsia and just like gave it to the Hulk King for that, I would have enjoyed something, because it's like She-Hulk exists in this universe still too, and I rewatching it, I really enjoy Tatiana Maslany. I think she did a great job, and I enjoy
awesome.
She-Hulk quite a bit. I put in a chat how I thought the chemistry was better between She-Hulk and Daredevil than Matt Murdock and Karen Page, but they are different types of charisma and chemistry. But I still think it was a lot of fun. Like I was like, I enjoyed it so much. I was surprised to think back that they hadn't dated in the past. They've had like a few like shared scenes and stuff as far as She-Hulk and Daredevil, but like, oh yeah, the two lawyers, they never connected really too much. That's surprising.
Sorry,
that's a tangent, courtesy of the Financial Giants.
That's they have too much in common today. Like that's like your day job and your night job. You both do the same thing. Like, there's a separation there. You gotta.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean,
they definitely should hook up. Is all.
We've also got a TV show called Suits where it's like it's nothing but about lawyers being lawyers. So it's like the fact that you could have them find some drama there, it could be good. And I thought I like Charlie Cox and Tatiana Maslany together. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, they're both good. Can I mention though, just because you brought up the Avengers again, where we reset the Hulk, right? Both in Incredible Hulk at the beginning, which kind of, I don't know if you guys remember, but because of the Ang Lee Hulk movie, the thinking for the Incredible Hulk release was to soft reboot the Hulk, where if you'd seen that one, this worked mostly. But if you hadn't seen this one, it could be your introduction. That one's not canon. This one is canon. But they didn't want to confuse the audience too much since it hadn't been that long since the Ang Lee Hulk movie, right? But we start off in that movie with Bruce Banner trying to get away from civilization because he's so dangerous. Where does he go? To Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, one of the most populated places on Earth. But they're not white people, so it's fine. And then in the Avengers, he's in India, where there's just 1 billion people, and they're, again, not white people, so it's fine. Like, he's hanging around with kids and stuff. And there's definitely no sources of anger in a country with that much of a caste system.
That's the commentary, that he's more stressed out around white people than he is everybody else.
That is the way to approach explaining that, yeah.
All I know is if he was in Brazil, maybe he's got some family out there. If you know what I'm saying. Maybe he wants to join.
Races cars to relax.
Maybe he needs to hang out with Dominic Toretto. I'm just throwing it out. I'm laying the seeds. I'm laying the seeds.
I thought you were
getting part of that Fast universe.
Yeah.
I thought you were tying it back to like the X-Men First Class, where it's like Magneto hunting down Germans in Brazil and being like,
oh no.
No, I really like the idea of crossing over just Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner into the Fast and Furious movie universe. That would be sick.
And like at one point, he's like, "Oh, you should go to MIT or something."
Or something.
Sometimes family makes you angry, but a Corona will make it all right. That's how he calms him down. Gives a Corona.
That's how they calm him down.
That's my secret, Dom. I've always got a Corona.
Slides one out of his sleeve.
Yeah.
I know. They made such an emphasis about him trying to appease Betty that I felt like there should have been more of her in the movie in general. Like, you give her the like, and then you tease her appearance with the phone. You ruin her appearance with the phone call by saying like, "Oh, it's okay, we can have a talk." I'm like, don't have that phone call and just have her show up at the very end and be like, "Hey, I'm glad to see that you took accountability for what you did. Maybe we can start having a friendship or relationship after that." But you're like, "Yeah, we can go for a walk," and then you show up at the very end like, "Well, we can just sit down and talk." It's like, well, damn it, make up your mind.
But this goes
I just feel like, go ahead, Pat.
Please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, with all the weight of Sam, who was a former Air Force soldier, right, and is imprisoned on the raft for helping Captain freaking America by General Ross, and then their talk at the end of this, while it visually had the weight of recalling those scenes, it was so nothing. And they didn't seem to have any kind of special restrictions for what if Thunderbolt Ross gets pissed off and turns into Red Hulk. He's just in the same cage that Ant-Man was in, like,
I mean,
I don't know.
They took away his Funheim pills.
We could have seen the power inhibitor from She-Hulk, but why would we want to tie that to anything?
You could have had him be imprisoned and angry as the Red Hulk, and having Betty show up is the thing that finally gets him to calm down, instead of just Sam talking him down in, again, what I assume was a reshot scene because he was supposed to get killed.
That's a real green screen too, when Sam is like talking.
Yeah,
that is just like, I'm going to stand here that I'm lit to the like as bright as possible, and it was so clearly green screen.
Well, and that scene in Japan where they've got the same trees at the White House,
there are cherry blossoms in Washington, and there are cherry blossoms, but it is kind of funny where he's like, well, I've got to remember Betty because I've got to get her.
Again, he's not an idiot. Hulk. That's where they never make that distinction.
But he is.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. it's half.
Sam's talking him down as though anger is the reason why he's the Hulk. No,
But it is the reason.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the reason why they don't.
The press won't listen to him. That was his problem.
Well, the other
They wouldn't
thing
let him
I
talk
had
to
an
the
issue with
press.
is like they didn't explain his ability to generate fire, so to speak. They showed like he burned through his
Right.
clothes, but I'm like, aside from that, there's no reason for him to be a Red Hulk. At least
Yeah.
show him if he's going to fight against Sam. Like, hey, use some of that.
Kareem.
That's expensive.
Just
Okay.
talky. Okay, they just want smashy. We don't
Yeah.
want we just want
Also,
we just want to smash things. That's all he's here for. He's going to destroy a good portion of the White House after everyone shoots at the president. They're just like
Yeah.
Hulk,
open
the monster.
fire.
They shoot at a monster, not the president.
Yeah, it's
Wait.
so
They knew those
often we
bullets were
allow
gonna do
presidents
anything.
to be monsters, but not monsters to be presidents.
Oh, that got.
I had mentioned to Pat, I think, in a separate chat, that this is one of the better CGI versions of a Hulk that we've seen since the first Hulk in Avengers. And this is also one of the better representations as far as his kinetic ability. I think the Russo brothers really, ironically, they're very good with making a kinetic fight scene for Captain America and Bucky, and people, like the back and forth fight scenes, the choreography, because they hired in people for those things. But they slow down the fights and make the fights look kind of dumb for Hulk. And so when you get to see this Red Hulk, it seems like he should be more relentless in anything in these aspects. I was hoping that we'd see obviously more, because I'm a fan of the Hulk, more of the Hulk. But I was upset that again he gets taken down by Sam. I'm like,
Through the power of conversation.
He gets taken down by a one little petal from a cherry blossom.
Well, he
That's
also got knocked out by a Wakandan kinetic blast that had less of an effect on Sam.
yeah, exactly. I'm like,
He's
Sam's
just a
dead.
guy. Like, I don't think that should have affected the Hulk
Right.
at all.
At least
I
liquefies
do buy
him.
that he could stab him with his vibranium wing, but I feel like the Hulk would have just taken that impact,
Yeah,
I mean, that's our difference for this Red Hulk, is that he's bullets will still bounce off of him, but you can cut him with vibranium. So that's
Right.
kind of a trade. I mean, the progression that we've had with the VFX for getting a Hulk that can be this more of a kinetic moving creature, to your point, like that. But also that's our distinction between Green Hulk and Red Hulk. Red Hulk is a little smaller, and he's not as powerful as Green Hulk. Green Hulk is the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. Red Hulk gets hotter when he gets angrier, or gets more powered up. I don't know how to describe that, because
I was
kind of Red Hulk
talking about
he
the
gets hotter. He just gets hotter.
Yeah.
He gets a boost of energy from
talking about the kinetic stuff. Yeah. I was just going to say that the physics of Sam landing in the opening shot and lots of scenes throughout the movie really got on my nerves, as somebody who's done a lot of two-seater single engine airplane flying. I love the way Sam's flight has always felt, and this movie, it felt more cartoony and fakey than it has in previous ones to me.
But he's just a normal man, and a normal
In a
man
vibranium
can do
suit.
that.
In a vibranium, that's how he can land so hard that the sonic boom will take out people around him.
Yeah.
But he himself in the suit is through layers of vibranium. Ken said to hand wave it away. I'm not saying I'm just saying that's the best.
I guess that is the hand wave. It just doesn't feel exciting,
Yeah.
Agreed.
like the stakes. I want to care about the stakes of each hit.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this movie feels like I was entertained, but there's, as Kareem pointed out, 3 better movies in there. And if you think about it for more than about a minute, it kind of just falls to pieces. Once again, Falcon just magically became good with computers because he was good at Google searches. And
he was
break into the military and stop mind control. There's just a lot of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not like they couldn't have just had a character that's already set up to be computer related help with that.
The guy in the
scene.
chair.
It's a very like the thing you were saying about it being like early 2000s or 90s superhero movies. You always have to have your sidekick as a hacker, you know?
Yeah,
Gotta
but
have
typically
microchip
they don't go in
or-
the field with you because when he gets taken out, I'm like, well, there goes your psychic and your guy in the chair.
Good
Yeah.
thing the big bad's a punchy one.
I mean, we saw what happened to
Meanwhile-
Batgirl. She got paralyzed.
Yeah.
You can only do one or the
Meanwhile-
other.
We've left Isaiah in prison. The thing that he hated the most, and we just leave him in prison for so long. And that's again, this ties back to me like he's like the moment in which he's like when they're like get down on the ground and he's like don't mess up my suit. I'm like nope, everyone can die now. I don't care. Screw this entire movie.
I really thought are you gonna go? Is he gonna not make it out of prison? Are you gonna go that dark?
Yeah,
I'm surprised he went back in. You know, I think that there's a lot of like, not
I was
super
afraid for a
overt, but
second.
racial politics built into these movies. And the idea, they try to have their cake by referencing the issues of, like Isaiah having a problem with Sam representing America, this country that's done so many bad things. But they also want their Isaiah Bradley to be the model prisoner who puts his hands up and complies and goes to a prison that he could have easily walked out of with a punch, just to show that this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to obey the law, and the cops tell you what the law is.
Yeah, it's more propaganda, which didn't make sense again, especially for someone who tried to assassinate the president. I'm like, I don't think you go to a normal prison for that kind of stuff. I'm like, you go to a black site where they interrogate you and ask questions.
That's another thing too that they kind of touch on and don't even address is that he shoots the president, and then there's like, oh, he missed. No, he didn't. We all know that there's like cut scenes missing somewhere where like they see like, oh, these are the bullets that hit Ross and then fell because he's secretly a Hulk. But we don't.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
No. I'm just saying hypothetically that has to happen because like he's this close, he shoots him, and they talk about it. He's like, how did he miss from so close? But then they never
they never address that.
Well, I think they say that the leader wanted him to miss because this was all just steps along the path to getting Ross to reveal himself as the Red Hulk.
Question though, how much granularity does he have with the shot itself? Like the flashes in the phone and the music basically just run a series of events. His abilities are based on like his own eye-hand coordination. Like he should not miss that, regardless if
unless he was told to miss,
Yeah. This
but
was a
he could have just
problem
shot
situation.
in the air. Like he could have
miss
shot
and then run away too. But that's where I think it's there's like there's things that I feel that they had seeds that they didn't really come to fruition or want to talk about because they were too busy.
Or they could have just explained like, hey, I was aware of what was going on, but I had no control of my body. So he's fighting the mind control because he has a serum.
Yeah, that could have totally made more sense. Yeah.
They didn't show us any of that. They didn't.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, I'm just saying that's what they could have done, Ken.
In our better movie, we could have had that, but the idea
definitely.
I felt that was supposed to be a head nod that, oh no, Ross has got some secret stuff going on because he can take a bullet at that closer range and not die, not even pierce his skin. I thought that was supposed to be like keeping our hand to that, oh no, he's superhuman, but it just kind of goes like, oh, how do you miss at that close range? Oh, I guess he just wanted. So then we just have the pre-planning of Emperor Palpatine levels of just like, oh yes, everything
also,
fell into
hold
place.
on a second. Wait a minute. No, that still doesn't make sense because that's fucking dumb. The way to trigger Hulk is to shoot him. That is when Hulk shows up to save the body. Like that is the whole thing. That's what.
But that's Green Hulk. This is Red Hulk, who's exactly the same. That's my problem. There's a lack of consistency. And
I'm like, he said he tried to shoot himself, and the other guy showed up. I'm like, so you shoot him, and he turns into Red Hulk. He has no choice but to.
No, you must build the anger. Build, yes, good, yes.
Good. It's so crazy that they spent so much time rewriting and reshooting and still didn't solve some of these basic things, and they gave us so many repetitive scenes.
Another question. Say he turns into Red Hulk on that ship. Does that ship just sink and he drown with it?
No, he walks
I mean,
out
he
the
did, but he just.
Where does
he
he walk
just
out? It's
swim.
the ocean.
Yeah.
Have we ever seen a Hulk swim? We've seen a Hulk jump. We've seen a Hulk kind of, fly, so to
ocean.
speak.
I'm just gonna jump out of the water.
From what? Where is he getting his leverage? The bottom of the ocean? How far? I'm just saying, how deep
Might
is
get in the bed.
I just wanted to see like one of those situations where he turns into Red Hulk and you just see the ship implode and the leader go, fuck. Didn't think this one through.
I mean,
I think he could probably swim, right?
My question was, he didn't need to be on the ship.
No.
No. He needed to be on the ship so that they could have a moment where he goes into a corner and smashes
He can do that at the White House.
All right, here is how I think.
He needs metal pipes to squish.
Now,
to
here is
show
how I
his
think.
strength.
Here's how I think that conversation went. We got Harrison Ford. He was a president Air Force One. We got to get him like on an aircraft carrier, something they could look like.
Well, they did. They got him on there. He's riding a bike.
Yeah, I love that line about like I was a wartime general. Like, yeah, you're from America. We're always at war. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Nah, he was on the front line with the Hulk, and so he needs to.
Do you mean Infinity War? Do you mean Civil War? Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
He was on the front line when they did the thing with the Hulk, and we just love it when the president goes to an active battle situation. It's exactly what we want.
That's what I'm saying. I felt like they could have had that exact same scene of him at the White, which would make more sense when he goes and says, "All right, our treaty is saved." Like he doesn't need to be on the ship and then travel back to the United States to say that. Like you could just have him in the White House and be like, "Hey, he's getting relayed information," which he would have been getting.
Sounds like someone doesn't want to be president, Kareem. You got to get in the thick of it. You got to put yourself.
Yeah, and it also just like there's so much of this movie where we're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I got to go to Japan. I got to come back. I got to be on this boat at the celestial thing. I got to come back. I got to go over here and I got to come back. Everybody is like moving around and coming back to the White House the whole movie.
And there's a weird moment too where they kind of like where the French diplomat and the other one, I don't remember who it was. I apologize. Are like, well, we have. Maybe India. Yeah, and it's like, we haven't heard from Japan, and from what we hear, you're still hiding in your bunker. And I'm like, yeah, someone tried to kill me. Like,
I love how they say from what we hear, but I'm like, you're on a fucking Zoom. You could see he's in the fucking bunker.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, made America look weak. I'm just throwing it out there, guys.
That's the kind of
should have hulked that right there.
That's what I'm saying is that there's this weird politics that doesn't have enough to say anything, but still like wants to. I don't know.
Well, I couldn't.
That's exactly what the writer said. I don't know, man.
How did they?
I feel bad.
How did they lose Japan again originally? Before they were given the intel.
Oh, just because he was endangered there. He was endangered because they at one point one of them targeted the Prime Minister of Japan. Yeah. President Japan. I'm sorry, I don't know the.
Yeah, I believe it's. I want to say Prime Minister, but.
Yeah,
Japan had its adamantium stolen. Okay. So that's why they freaked out.
No, remember he returned it.
Yeah, and then
that's why they're at the White House, and then
right. My point is,
the president of Japan is in danger at that shooting.
Right, but so is the president. So it wasn't like, hey, you had someone try and kill me. It was someone tried to kill you and me, and I'm dropping out of this whole thing. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Why wouldn't? But the
throwaway line is like you can't even protect your own house, which is a very like movie way of setting up conflict, but doesn't make sense in the real world in any way. Like there would definitely be a show of unity if multiple world leaders were attacked,
Even if it isn't your own self-preservation, you're going to give up access to the adamantium because you got shot at?
No, I'm going to send an aircraft carrier to get the adamantium.
Well, no, that wasn't until you got the intel that the U.S. was fucking with him. But originally he was like, "I'm out of the treaty." I'm like, "You're."
Well, and see, that's the thing is when they previs all these movies, they've planned all the major action scenes, right? So the only thing you can change, and they've had CGI, armies working on these things. So the only things you can change are these green screen phone call scenes and one-on-one scenes and solo scenes cheaply. And the logic just falls out the window as you're trying to paste this thing back together.
You got 2 more minutes. Just keep talking. Just keep talking. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Well,
that seemed like a really poor way to just leave at least access to the adamantium, more access. Like you have your little canister, and you're willing to give up the rest of it because you were potentially shot at.
And there's the
they weren't giving up the rest of it. That's why they went back to Celestial Island, because Japan's
they went
we're
back.
Go back to our flag.
No, they went back there because they found out the U.S. had stolen it from him. Okay. He was just going to drop out of the treaty. They were going to break up the treaty.
Right, but they were still going to keep their land. They just weren't going to, like, I don't think they were going to be like, oh, we're going to secede from celestial colonization. They're just like, no, we're just not going to come to the table anymore. We're just going to go back to our.
Okay, then what does the treaty do then? If people are already there colonizing,
what do any treaties do? Like they're just paper. Who cares? Like it doesn't matter,
guys. I think
that's some Donald Trump talk, Ken, and I won't stand for it.
Treaties are paper that you wipe your ass with. Everyone knows that. I'm going to get the best treaty, though. Don't even worry about it.
That's what Ukraine's finding out right now.
Oh, big time. Well, that's why I was saying, like, it would have made more sense to have a treaty in place when the movie starts.
Yeah.
That allowed all of them to colonize and mine their section of the thing. Than to say, already I have my section, now let's get into a treaty.
The discovery of adamantium puts the treaty at risk because now there is an extremely valuable...
Oh, that makes more sense by a mile.
Yeah. So they didn't write a good movie. That's just where we're at. They did.
Well, they might have at some point.
Yeah. I still think Malcolm Spellman, who also wrote and I believe was the showrunner on Falcon and Winter Soldier, they brought a lot of good things to the table. What those were then done with, and who decided to carve up that turkey and be like, okay, you're getting this piece, we're doing this, and we're bringing all this to the table. That's
and it's sad because they had 2 extra years to figure this stuff out. Like they had 2 years.
He's done some good interviews too. So like he's talked a bit about what his like what happened with Falcon and Winter Soldier, and so it's like I trust him as a creative. I just think that he's hamstrung by executives. Just
generally
and like the overall Marvel plan.
Yeah,
which there isn't one. I'm convinced.
I mean, it's a loose plan. It's like 11% of a plan.
There you go.
Well, it was definitely a plan at some point, but so much has thrown things into chaos. Not just the oversaturation with Disney Plus shows turning off a lot of the audience and creating a lot of lore that the mainstream movie-going people aren't up on, which is crazy to me. I've loved most of the shows, not all of them, but most of them. And the thing, all the stuff that's happened with Kang, which was clearly going to be a huge plan for the multiverse saga, and has been totally upended and erased.
I can't believe they had the pieces for the storytelling of Red Hulk, and they just fumbled all of them. Like you had a story of a missing Betty, who you could have just killed off. You could have brought Liv Tyler back for flashbacks of her life during, but you could have killed her off and had Leader and MODOK, which you have in the universe, convince Thaddeus, like, hey, we're going to bring back your daughter. This is what we need to do in order to do it. And you have your Red Hulk story right there. You had those pieces. But instead, you're like, let's kill off MODOK in a random Ant-Man movie. Let's bring Leader back 4 movies later. And let's bring Betty back after, 15 years or whatever, to have her show up for 2 minutes.
I definitely think that if you're going to bring Liv Tyler back, as much as I don't like the trope of fridging female characters to get guys to feel things, that is a villain move, to motivate the president of the United States by killing off and then offering to rescue his dead daughter. Yeah.
Well, it also would explain why Bruce has no mention or connection to her throughout this entire MCU. Kill her off before and be like, hey, Betty's been dead for years. This is how Bruce has moved on. Now you're going to bring her back, and you can reintroduce her into the MCU just like that. Like, hey, she's back alive. These two can go back to being, a thing. As opposed to him just saying, like, hey, Black Widow, you and I could be a thing. What about the love of your life? Fuck her.
You know how I was talking about how it would have been more interesting to me if the leader or the buyer had used Harrison Ford's Thunderbolt Ross to get access to shield data on things like the Mind Stone, and that led to things. You know what would have been cool for his pitch for I Can Bring Her Back is studying how the snap functioned at a quantum level, and then being able to reassemble actual anybody who's died. You know,
Bam.
like the imagination, even if he couldn't do it, even if it was a lie, but he probably could in Marvel physics, right? But even if it was just a lie to get Ross to do what you wanted, if you lived in a world where half the population died and then came back 5 years later having not aged, anything's freaking possible, you know? That would have been cool.
Right there. Yeah.
Man, this podcast has so many more better ideas than the rewriters of Captain America: Brave New World.
Probably
that's what you get from Tangential Giants, folks.
That's right.
Be sure to follow us on Patreon, and it doesn't exist yet, but it's soon.
Our Patreon exists, but we'll save it for all our movie pitches. All our movie pitches will be there. Pay for those.
Yeah.
Unlike paying for these Captain America. Again, enjoyed the movie. I love the riding the missile team. Yeah. I love using the shield as a what's his name? Falcon, or what's the Red Wing or whatever?
Red Wing.
And his shield as
I thought that was
the
slick.
Missiles and the bullets. That was sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did some cool things with the fight choreography, with the way Falcon just uses his tech in general. Again, I'm very upset that a Hulk gets taken down so easily, really.
And isn't this the curse of Marvel? When the Hulk is involved, they're going to mess up the Hulk.
But I think, again, you're right. You're right, Pat. I totally agree. I just, with the idea of like it taking at least 4 or 5 superheroes to bring them down, I could have been like, you know what, that would make sense. Especially for one that's a tactician like Ross would have been.
No,
like Hulk's, a rage monster. It's maybe you can confuse him or just calm him down. That is the fastest way to get rid of him. But for a guy who has, 2/3 of his strength, but has all of his fighting ability, you're going to need, I think you're going to need more people or better strategy than look at the flower petal that should have melted in your hand. Imagine if it melted in his hand, he got more upset.
I mean, that would have been cooler, but he just got sad. Like, oh, I miss my daughter. Shrink. Oh, sad now.
So much that could have been,
That's what Captain America semicolon could have been.
It's the story of the movie. Please entitle this episode that.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, what do we got? What's our next movie? Is something coming out in May, right? Or is it the Fantastic Four? Is the next one?
Thunderbolts is next, right?
Thunderbolts is May, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Or is it June? I don't know.
I think
time has
no. It's before Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four is end of July.
May 2nd. Yeah. May 2nd is Thunderbolts.
And I have one last question before we end the podcast. How does Congressman Bucky play in the Thunderbolts?
Oh, I mean, do you want to hear like what the grapevine is saying?
Sure. I mean,
so the Thunderbolts have a failed.
I
mean, do we want to go into that kind of thing? I don't know if we're.
No, the reason why I raise this question is because it brings up a lot of questions about like rehabilitating that character and why Bucky would even want to be a congressman. Like, there's nothing in his past that's ever indicated that he'd want to run for office or be saddled with that after being.
He's trying to find.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it's a brave new world, Kareem. Why not?
Peaceful life, still do good for people, just like like a real politician, just wants to help the people.
I mean, at best, he was a soldier.
I mean,
youngest.
What if he wants to punch Nazis and he figures going to Congress is the best place to find them?
That's how you find them.
Poor guy.
You're not elected in here. I'm not elected in here to serve with you. You're elected in here to serve with me.
There you go.
See? We're already writing it.
If the first half hour of the movie is him just punching congressmen that are Nazis, let's.
Someone tweeted a thing today about fighting every single senator, and I thought it sounded like a Scott Pilgrim reboot. Scott Pilgrim versus the Senate 100 boss battles.
That'd be awesome.
But you could totally do it with Bucky.
Oh yeah, you just call it Bucky Barnes, semicolon Nazi hunter, and he just goes to
Bucky Barnes goes to Washington, man.
Yeah.
That's why he has to be a rep. He can't be a senator. They've got to give it. They got to give him a better chance with 434 others as opposed to.
There you go.
Right, instead of the.
You know what he says when he takes out like the last opponent is, "This is the end of the line."
Drops his arm. I because it seems like he's picking up, at least in Thunderbolts, his Winter Soldier persona. But we're gonna have a leap between
Congress. Just like all Congress.
Okay, fair enough. I find it interesting. You know, what'd be cool is if you ran into, because we had this conversation on the pod, if you ran into Senator Kelly as Mystique as he's in Congress.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm into it. That's fine.
That would be bring those mutants in. Bring those mutants in.
That would be pretty badass. You guys want to see what I've been working on while we've been talking?
Yes, please.
Be able to work on something while we've been talking. That's
This is a wireframe made of basket reed for a big paper lantern salamander head. It's going to be a big salamander for a parade.
That's pretty cool.
That's nice.
I've been working on legs.
Oh wow.
This is what I've been doing when you see me like lean off to get some tape or something.
That is multitasking, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I've been over here getting upset. This guy's been making stuff. Difference between Cap and Ross over here.
I feel like we're all going to be telling people these better versions of what they should have done for the rest of our lives. These are good ideas.
Hopefully, maybe we can get someone to write a comic on that one, because they've just redone the Captain America and Red Hulk storyline, haven't they, in comics? Isn't there a new one?
Yeah, I think there's a new series where that's happening.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because the Red Hulk persona went to another person for a little while too, because after the Hulk was killed and then brought back with Extremis, he became Doc Green, and then he depowered a bunch of the other Gamma people, and then later on with USA Avengers, they had another guy being Red Hulk, and and he actually had the mustache when he was Red Hulk, so I actually appreciate that.
That's
more. Like that way it should be.
That was the last thing I wanted to mention, is that it seems like the gravitas that Thunderbolt Ross has and the like sinisterness with him went away with the mustache.
Yeah,
and I think it's to your point of, we got Harrison Ford. Like it's kind of a different character. Like Ross always had, when he was at least on screen, that idea, like, hey, he could like be thinking of something more sinister than what he's actually portraying. Like, there's always that. This one was kind of like, I'm an old man.
Yeah. Did you ever see the movie A History of Violence?
Yes.
So, William Hurt got nominated for an Oscar for that. He's on the screen like 4 minutes, but he's the most menacing 4 minutes in a movie I had seen in a long time. He brought this kind of almost like violence underneath the surface to the part that Harrison Ford just is. It's Han Solo. Okay, it's Indy. Like, yeah.
There was never any point that you were threatened, like, oh, he's gonna get mad.
If it's William Hurt, I can imagine what that looks like.
Yeah,
it's much more terrifying. So
yeah.
Well, Mayday, thank you so much for joining us to discuss.
Hey, thanks for letting me talk with you guys.
We appreciate it. A pleasure. Where can people find you, follow you?
I'm on Blue Sky. It's just Mayday Trip. Trip is TRIPPE. Mayday's MAYDAY. But I'm on Blue Sky, and I'm on the Kara app, CARA. It's kind of like a artist alternative to Instagram that doesn't train AI on all your artwork. So I've migrated over there, and a lot of my artist pals are on there too.
Oh, it's good to know.
Yeah.
Is your Patreon still active? I remember funding for a while. I believe you still have, because I think you just posted some stuff recently too for that, right?
Yeah, I post stuff as like a sketch blog on there. It is just kind of behind the scenes. So like when I'm working on a cover or side projects or just things that are in my head that I got to get out. A lot of times I'll show stuff way before I post it online, or I'll show like lots of process stuff that I'm never going to post anywhere else.
Cool. And what is that called? So people can go there.
It's just Mayday Trip on Patreon.
Okay.
Patreon.com/Mayday Trip.
Cool.
And can people still find? I think you at one point you were on Society 9, but I think now you're more shifted over, and people can still pick up your book as well. Correct?
Yeah, I think there's still copies that exist of Something Terrible, my book from 2013 that got published in 2017. It was like a web comic originally, but it's about surviving abuse and how much Batman helped me as a fictional trauma survivor story. I'm working on a new edition of that's formatted vertically instead of horizontally, and I've done a new cover for it. I'm going to make that like a print on demand and ebook thing online, but you can still get copies of the 2017 hard copy or hardcover of Something Terrible if you look on Amazon or eBay or other used bookstores.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There's also a great print from from one of the latter pages in the book as well on some of their different stores and so forth, and it's color and it's fantastic, and I have it hanging over my TV.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll have this in the show notes. We'll have it on our website as well. If people want to go check it out.
Appreciate it. And you can always just check out my current stuff at maydaytrip.com.
There you go. Everyone always get your own website too, in case the platforms ever decide to be stupid.
What? No. What? No. What are you? Huh?
Oh, you got a Mark Wahlberg there. It's like, what? No.
What? No.
No.
Mayday, thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone out there, please remember, there are better Captain America movies. There could have been better.
No,
we could have had
with
more.
That being said,
we could have had more.
With that being said, go watch this one, because I've gotten to the age where I'm like, you got to appreciate the people who who do set design, who there are people who worked on this that should get some get paid, and
a lot of people.
And also just go make up your own mind, watch it, and have an opinion.
Yeah.
After that.
No.
Think about the poor Disney executives and Marvel shareholders, that put their heart and soul into this film.
Listen,
and then those people got fired.
Yeah.
Listen to my opinion. It's the right one. So just go with that. Much easier.
Yeah.
Much easier.
And I would like people to be informed instead of making knee-jerk and snap decisions. So go watch it for yourself.
It's It's entertaining. Go see it.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Da, 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 da.
End recording.